Everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We are with the one and only Marc Ribler, my man in New Jersey. I want a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank our mutual friend Jack Daly, the monster bass player. For Jack looks like he's like 17. What is that? I would like to bottle whatever the shit he's on, man.
He's the most handsome bass player on the planet.
He's like, anyway, thank you, Jack. Don't let that go to your head. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe. Subscribe to the audio and video. If you're checking us out on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the bell, please. All right. Marc Ribler, New York City guitarist, singer, songwriter, and producer. He is currently the musical director for Stevie Van Zandt and Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul. He's performed with Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello, Darlene Love, Ian Anderson, Roger McGuinn, Carole King, Rick Springfield, Peter Wolf, Southside Johnny, Steve Forbert, Gary U.S. Bonds, Lulu, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and loads of others. Excuse me. He's a great songwriter, man. That's what his main thing has been over the years. He's written and produced over 40 songs for major label recording artists throughout the world. His songs have charted in Billboard's Hot 100, the American Top 40 Kasey Casem Count Down. Dude, that must have been really cool the first time even though Kasey Casem is kind of kitschy, that was a major institution, man. That had to be pretty cool the first time you heard like a song on Kasey Casem, no?
Kasey Casem. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
Yeah. What song was it?
It's Americana. It was an artist in the States. It was a guy by the name of Mitch Malloy. He was on RCA Records in the early 90s. And the first song we had, it got into the 20s. It was a song called Anything at All. We had a couple songs on that charted. Yeah, it was a good time, make a living in the music business. That's really when I started making a decent living in the business.
In songwriting, right on, man.
Yeah.
And he's also had top 10 hits in Canada and abroad. He also writes, sings, and produces for TV, film, national TV, and radio ads. Marc, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you coming on the show. What is that guitar next to you, man? I've been looking at that for the last half hour.
It's a 61 Chet Atkins Tennessean Gil.
Wow, 61.
Yeah, it's the George Harrison guitar,
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, I bought it off a friend of mine a few years ago, man. I got flat wounds on it, like George, and
all 6 strings are flat wounds, or is it like 3 and 3?
It's let's see, the G string is wound, so the first 4 strings are flats, and the B and E are just like regular steel strings.
Yeah.
But it's it just it's more true to its sort of authentic sound.
Yeah, beautiful guitar, man.
Thanks, really man. Cool. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape, man. It's funny when I've been on tour with Steven. I've been using this Gretsch. It's a newer one, a Gretsch Broadcaster. It's a reissue, but they're fantastic guitars.
Right
they
on,
really
man.
They have their own. Because I've been a sort of a Fender guy most of my life. I have some Gibsons, but the Gretsch has its own thing,
How does I've never played a Gretsch. How does that differ, let's say, from like a Gibson hollow body or semi-hollow body?
The pickups, it has these Valvetronic pickups, so they just kind of have a different curve. They have this honk to them. It's a very unique, you listen to those Beatles records, like the early Beatles records, it's like, and when you first, when I was a kid, you wanted a Les Paul or a Strat as your first guitar. And certainly what's that, man?
Most people still do. Right? Yeah.
And, when you find out that, Paul McCartney played a Les Paul, and George later on played a Les Paul, but he started with the Gretsch, they started with Gretches and Rickenbackers, and you kind of don't realize that till you're older. It's like these sound, using a Vox AC30 and using Vox amps and those guitars like a Rick or a Gretsch, it's a very, it's just a whole different animal than a Strat and a Marshall, a Plexi or it's all very different guitar sounds, But that's cool. Really the authentic, that's the thing we grew up with as kids, and somehow I guess probably Jimmy Page and Clapton and Jimi Hendrix really influenced the Les Paul Strat thing.
Totally.
Guitar players, yeah.
Yeah,
I love Tellys too. So
man, and I just can't get into a Telly. So many people love Tellys, man. So many.
Telecaster, I think, is the most versatile guitar there is.
That's what I hear.
If you use the tone control, the treble pickup, the bridge pickup, and the tone control, you can get close to like what a Les Paul does. You just roll off the high end, and then you can get it to scream. It's a very So if I have if there's one guitar that I like to have on a gig to kind of cover a lot of the bases, it would be a Telecaster.
That's your Swiss Army knife.
It's my Swiss Army. Yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you first get started in the music business, and like maybe what was your first break?
Well, when I was 11, my cousin, I was at my cousin's house, and he was a couple years older than me. I always looked up to him, and he had a guitar. He was starting to take guitar lessons, and I like looked at the thing, and it was like, it was almost like shining like a grail, and I swear to God, I remember that moment, and then I've never looked back. I mean, I asked my parents if I can get a guitar, and I took a couple lessons at like a local music store. We rented this guitar, and then that's the thing that kind of, I think, kept me on the planet and alive, and got me through the stress of being a teenager, and it was really like the Holy Grail, And so, let's see, I started playing when I was 11. Started playing probably by 12. We were playing at lunchroom dances, like school dances.
Sure.
By 14, I was playing with, I was very serious about it, man. I practiced a lot, and I started playing with cats that were, like 5-10 years older than me. We started playing in bars, probably 14, 15 at the Jersey Shore, like a lot of the, kind of famous New Jersey shore places.
Sure.
And then when I was, I started writing music when I was about 15. I started writing, I think I started lyrics a little later, but, and I wanted to play original music, and I found this band. There was this newspaper in New Jersey at the time. I think maybe it still exists. It was called The Aquarium, and it was there would be like a want ad. There would be musicians looking for other musicians for their bands, and I answered this ad, this band Night Flyer, and there used to be a studio in New York City called the Record Plant.
Oh, of course.
Lennon, I mean, all these, the early Aerosmith records. Jimi Hendrix recorded Electric Ladyland there, and I knew that because when you were a kid, you had an album.
Yeah.
And it said where it was recorded and who the engineer was, and sometimes what kind of microphones they used, and you had all these great details about now I don't think kids even care about the mystery of records. They think that these pop artists write the songs, which in most cases they don't. So anyway,
well, what I think is a problem with that too, that the CD, man, it's like it's like 2-point font. You have to,
as opposed to a 12-inch album.
Yeah, that's part of the packaging is part of the problem. I'm not complaining about it. It's just the way it is.
They have to give you reading glass. Like, even if you're a kid, you need reading glasses with the CD to find out what's going on, right?
Well, yeah, they're taking their cue from you. You have minimized that information by making it so small. Therefore, it's minimized. It's not, if you're putting something out and you're minimizing it, why should someone else have a vested interest in it?
I know.
Yeah.
We had the luxury or the
yeah.
That's what got us so into music, right? I mean, it was like, you open whatever, man. I'm like Steely Dan, Katie Lied. I was into a lot of different things, but I remember it would say, we use some very expensive German microphones, and they tell you who the assistant engineer is. It's like now, so it was all this. It's this whole romantic thing with music.
Yeah, it really was.
So anyway, so I answered this ad. I was 17 years old. This band, this guy Ron Orlando had this band called Night Flyer, and their dear friend Paul Prestipino, who was he was the head maintenance guy at the Record Plant, and he was also, by the way, he He was in the original Chad Mitchell trio when John Denver joined the band. So he was very close with John. John wanted him to be his musical director on the road and this is when Country Road was coming out, you know.
John Denver was a very talented guy, man.
Great, amazing singer, you know, really great, you know, pop songwriter.
Good vibe, just had a great vibe, you know, and he had that TV show even. It just had a nice vibe, man. It was very...
He was like, he was Americana, man. He was like in purest form, you know?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think it was 1969 or 70, Paul got the job at Record Plant to be the maintenance guy, but he was an amazing picker. I mean, he played mandolin and dobro and played a little bit of violin, and, you know, he played all these string instruments, banjo. And John asked him to be his musical director and go on the road, and he was just really loving the idea of being at Record Plant, you know. And this is just around the time that Jimmy recorded Electric Ladyland, and I think it was 69 or 70. So he told John, you know, I'd love to go on the road with you, but I think this is going to be my job now. So anyway, so then years later, you know, maybe, I think it was 1979 when I met Paul, he brought the band into Record Plant. So we would go in on the weekends and make, it was like a spec deal. Like you would make demos and then we would shop them to the major labels. And when and if we got a record deal, we would pay back the back end of what it cost to go in on the weekends, which was a loose arrangement. You know, basically you probably would have never paid for it, you know?
Right.
But we would go in, and I was 17, and I was in this magic kingdom of API consoles, and you know, they had all the gold records and platinum records on the walls, and John Lennon's, he gave this 10-foot acoustic guitar that was in this big showcase. It was this magical place. Bruce was just finishing Darkness on the Edge of Town there. And, you know, that's when I got the bug, and, you know, that was even got me deeper into, you know, just wanting this to be my life, you know, and
your parents were always cool about it and supportive.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think my mom would have liked me to go to college and become a professional, you know, a lawyer or a doctor or something. My dad had a better understanding, you know, like I wanted to drop out of school because wasn't a strong music program there. There was nothing for me there. And I was already at 15, I was already playing in bars and I was making money. I was making a living as a musician. I just wanted to do music full time. I wanted to write songs, and it was a big struggle with my mom because she had other ideas, but I dropped out, you know, when I was 6, the first day of my junior year, I dropped out of school, and, you know, thankfully, you know, I've always made a living as a musician, you know, but I didn't feel like being in school was the thing for me, you know.
Man, I have a lot of respect for people like that, like you, that do that at a young age, not because like, oh, fuck school, man, I don't need, but you had a mission that, you know, you had a purpose already.
I felt like that, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it because you're so at that young age, you know, whether it's, you know, you're being divinely guided or you know, it's this blessing that you can't quite appreciate yet. But I knew what I wanted, and I knew that, you know, I had to, you know, overcome these obstacles of, you know, my mom wants me to go to college, you know, and I love my mom and appreciated it, not as much as I do now, what she was trying to, you know, achieve. But yeah, I just had a different viewpoint and goals, you know.
Let me ask you something about something you just said. You said you don't know whether it was divine guidance or just, what are your thoughts on that? And I'm not asking you to talk about religion at all. I'm just asking, what is your thoughts on, do you think there was like a God involvement there and you were being guided, or like, I don't know, what are your thoughts? I'm always curious.
Yeah, I think there's you know, everyone has their, you know, path. They have a spiritual path, you know, they have like, you know, everyone I think is supposed to be doing something. Like, I think some people find it at different maybe later in life they'll find what their calling is or whatever. But I mean, it was sort of this blind faith that whatever, you know, whether it's God or you know, the universal energy or however you want to explain it, I felt like I was being provided what I needed to do, you know, to do this thing. And I've never really questioned, you know, where is the money going to come from? Like that's never driven me. It was more, I was always driven by doing it and being creative, making music with other people. And somehow the payment always came, you know, but I wasn't motivated by, oh man, I got to make $10 million doing this. I was motivated by, I just need to be fully expressed creatively. I need to, this is my connection to the world. And when you see how music affects people, you know, it heals people and it brings people together, you know, and I just felt like this is like, you know, without knowing what a calling was, that this is the calling. You know?
Thank you for sharing that. When you were did you have that thought when you were that age? Did you say, hey, this is my calling?
No,
okay.
I think, and I think even when I was younger, I had kind of I always believed in God, but I didn't really connect it to a religion thing. I sort of connected to this divine force that exists, you know.
I think that's where problems come in when people do connect it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've talked to hundreds of people at this point, and everybody tells me that the problem they had was once religion entered, the people that were brought up in very religious, many of them have said that's the problem. Other people are opposite. They say, oh, you know, I'm grateful I follow X dogma, whatever. But a lot of more often than not with musicians, it's, you know, I didn't connect it to religion. I just felt this spirit.
Yeah, man, it's more of a spiritual calling or like it's God or whatever you want to call it. You know, you want to call it, you know, like I said, universal energy or, you know.
Yeah, whatever your thing is, that's
right.
not even, it doesn't even matter.
Well, yeah, I think money and religion, man. That's you know, that's the reason for wars and you know.
That's funny, money and religion. Could be, man. Well, that's cool. So you dropped out. So what happened with this? You're at the record plant on this spec deal.
Yeah.
What was your first break?
Well, that band, you know, and Ron was a good songwriter, you know, and we chopped, we got our records to Columbia, and, you know, Don DeVito was, you know, one of the head of A&R then, and
everybody you've mentioned is Italian, or they're like non-Italians in the record business. In that everybody you've mentioned is Italian. It's so funny. Prestipino, DeVito. There was another one. Yeah.
There's a bunch, man. Rick Aliberti actually signed me to my development deal at RCA Records. He's Italian.
Yeah, that's so funny.
That was years later. But I mean, at the time, you know, we didn't get a record deal, you know, and we showcased. We used to play at the Lone Star Cafe. And, play all these clubs in the city. Sure. And we, you know, the labels would come, and they, for whatever reason, it wasn't in the cards for them to get signed. We were together for a couple years. We went on the road, just, you know, like in the Northeast, and, you know, we played some colleges, and we did we opened for Rick Danko and Paul Butterfield.
Oh my God.
Well, speaking of Jack Daly, Jack actually, I think either he opened for them, it was the same year. I met Jack many years later, but I think it was the same tour. Like his band was supposed to open for them and they didn't show up or something. But we actually opened for them in Asbury Park. There was this club called the Fast Lane. And I mean, it was an explosive machine, man. It was a fucking freight train.
Butterfield?
Yeah,
he was.
What's that documentary on Amazon, Horn of the Heart? I
saw it recently. It was amazing.
So good, man. And, you know, I was a kid. I'm like, oh, Paul Butterfield. Yeah, I remember seeing him in The Last Waltz and listening to, you know, his blues records. And Danko, you know, I was into the band. So, so just, you know, it was, that was a highlight, you know, man, just opening for them. We opened for Sly Stone. Probably at the Fast Lane. And it was so sad to see him he was a complete drug addict, man. I mean, he had his pickup band, you know, we opened, you know, then we finished our set. His pickup band went on. They played for 20 minutes. Sly hadn't come out. the bass player, my friend Jonas in the band, said he saw Sly, you know, in the dressing room. I think he was shooting up or something, you know.
God, that's terrible,
Sly,
man.
like our hero, comes
Sad.
out, does 10 minutes, leaves the stage, comes back like 20 minutes later. It was so disappointing. And Sly is a genius, man. I mean, those records, you know,
Brilliant.
Drugs, you know, you gotta. I think everyone's tested in this business, you know, with drugs, and I've gone through my share of craziness, but somehow I was able to come back to planet Earth, you know, and a lot of our friends don't come back. You know?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So take me to the rest of the story. How did bring it full cycle? You're playing these clubs.
Yeah,
you're opening for good bands.
Right, we're opening for these bands. We shop for the labels. Unfortunately we didn't get a record deal. And after 2 years, I moved out of my parents' house. I was about 18. I was living with the band. We had to go work like temp jobs at factories like Johnson & Johnson just to make money to pay the rent. And it's like, man, this is not what I want to do. So I think I quit the band at that point. And of all things, I joined the New Jersey cover band that was working 5 or 6 nights a week, this band Bystander. And they were working on original music, or they said they were. And I spent about a year with them and realized that it was just really about playing covers, and I didn't want to do that. So I left. I was about 20 years old then, and I just put all my energy into songwriting. Like I started writing. I built a little home studio. I started out with a TIAC 3340. I had this Soundcraft mixer. I built a little patch bay. I got a couple of little compressors, like a DBX 160, and this, you know, I had an MXR digital delay. And I started writing and making home demos, you know. And
were you living on your own, or you moved back in with your folks?
I moved back home with my parents. Yeah, and they
Okay.
got a little studio in the basement. I think I was 19 or 20.
You were like already a veteran of the music business, though.
I mean, considering how young I started,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
I felt at 20 years old, I felt like, man, this is fucking rough. You know, fortunately, I was able to go to my parents' house, and they gave me the luxury of, you know, I would do gigs, you know, but I didn't have to learn all the money to pay for my rent. And
yeah, sure. You live there.
You know, I was young enough and they were cool enough to allow it to happen. So I built like a little studio.
Everybody moves out. All our kids, they've all moved out. They've all come back at some period of time, you know.
I moved out when I was 18, and I came back when I was 19 after this band broke, after I left this other band. And I stayed there for a few years, and they gave me the luxury of developing my skills enough as a writer, you know, as a songwriter. And then I got called in 1982. I got called to do a session at this studio in New York. It was called Penny Lane Studios. And this producer was a guy by the name of Steve Scharf. And his manager was a guy by the name of Barry Bergman. Barry was very instrumental in getting Meatloaf signed and really helping AC/DC get off the ground in the mid-'70s. He worked for Marx Music, who published E.B. Marx. They published. They were, I guess, Cleveland International was Meatloaf's label, but Marx published his songs, you know, Jim Steinman songs,
right.
And AC/DC. Barry went on the road with AC/DC in 1975 and just believed in them, you know. And I mean, he's mentioned in all their books now and everything. He was one of the early believers that helped make their career. And he literally was the person that got Meatloaf played on, I think it was WAPP in New York in 1979. And that radio station broke Meatloaf. Whoever the program director was at the time, Barry held him prisoner essentially in his house until he agreed to play the record. And I think that was either 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad or whatever the first big hit was. And that's what, you know, got Meatloaf's career going. So when I met Barry, I was doing the session. Barry came with Steve Scharf to the studio.
Who was the session for anybody like memorable or notable?
It was a band called Scarlet. It was just like this girl that you know,
Yeah.
her husband was a doctor and they had money to make a record, and, you know, they hired some good
God
people.
bless them.
God bless them. Yeah, that's what they are, you know. It's okay, you know. Fortunately, Barry came to the studio when I was doing guitar solos. And I was
Okay.
okay, but I mean, guitar was, before songwriting, before singing, guitar was everything, you know. And I was having a good day, and Barry was kind of blown away. And he said, Steve tells me, his producer that he managed, Steve Sharp, Steve tells me that you're a songwriter. He said he'd love to hear some of the songs, you know. So we got together. He had an office at Mark's Music then. I played him some songs. He felt, I was 21 at the time. He felt like, oh, there's a lot of potential here, but you need to keep doing it. You know, you need to, you know. And I'd go to his house in Brooklyn. I'd play him some songs, and he'd tell me 10 reasons why things were good, but could be better. And
That's great. So you got like personal tutoring on how to write.
Yeah, about
like hit songs.
Yes, see, like Barry.
Holy shit!
Not a musician, but you know, he was the vice president of United Artists Publishing. After Mark's Music, you know, with the Meatloaf and the AC/DC thing, he got a big job. You know, he was vice president of UA Publishing, United Artists. So, and you know, Barry's one of those people. He went to all the Alan Freed concerts at the Paramount in Brooklyn when he was a kid.
Right.
Total fan. You know, he's got pictures with Jerry Lee Lewis and everyone. You know, Little Richard. Like, he was the kid, 12 years old, would hang outside the Paramount with his camera and, you know, would ask people to take pictures of him with the stars. You know.
Right.
Total
Right.
fan. But he grew up at the most fertile, you know, well, just before the 60s, you know. Like,
Yeah.
He grew up with a great 50s pop music. And I think that gave him a really good barometer for hit songs, like what hit hooks are about. And he would stress that to me. He says, we need strong hooks. The chorus has got to take off, you know? So I would just go home with that, and he would play me examples. He would play me records and, you know, look at how this chorus takes off. So Barry was extremely helpful in mentoring. My first mentor was Paul Prestipino at the record plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then Barry, you know, and then about 2 years later, I was with Barry about 2 years, and I wanted him to manage me. He managed a bunch of other artists. And it took about a year after I knew Barry, I wrote a song, and he felt was a hit song, and he started shopping it for the labels, you know. And it took us about 2 years. I got my first cut in 1985. I was 23 years old.
Wow.
An artist in Canada called Lee Aaron.
Yeah. Do you know my name? Right? Isn't that the same guy?
No. You know what? I don't know. You know, she had her.
No. That's okay. I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I was thinking of.
She's the metal queen.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Queen of Toronto. She was from Toronto. You know.
That's wild.
So I got my first cut. You know, the album. It was a gold record in Canada. The first album. You know. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I'm sorry. Now, did you get the soul? Did he take a co-write on that?
Did who take a co-write?
Barry.
No. Barry. Me and Barry published the songs together. Barry's he's not creative. He's not a songwriter. He's strictly.
Yeah, but a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Would.
Oh, but he shared in the publishing.
Okay.
I shared my publishing with Barry.
Right. So there was a financial motive behind that.
Oh yeah, and at that
okay.
point, he was my manager. He was
managing okay.
You know, he's getting 20% as my manager, and we were doing the publishing together. You know, and he got me sub-publishing deals in Canada and overseas. With, you know, they would collect the money for your songs in different territories, and they would give you an advance.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
This is back. It's a whole other era in music.
Yeah.
Most of the kids at home may not realize that you could make a living as a songwriter at one point in this business. Now, there's a very few people that are making livings as songwriters. You know? So I got that cut, and then her next record, she wanted to write with me because she loved that. It was a song called "Step Into My Line of Fire." And my friend Bob Halligan, Barry felt he loved the chorus, and he felt the verse could be stronger. And my friend Bob Halligan, Bob wrote "Take These Chains" for Judas Priest, "Some Heads Are Gonna Roll."
Holy shit! Those are great songs.
You might want to interview Bob at some point. He's brilliant.
Those are like, that's my heyday of Judas Priest. I loved the band back then. That's so wild.
Bob wrote "Don't Close Your Eyes" for Kicks.
Wow.
He wrote, he had a bunch of Michael Bolton hits, Cher hits. I mean, Bob had a couple hundred covers. Bob did very well as a songwriter.
Good
so
for
Bob
him.
was another one of Barry's artists, songwriters. And Bob would come to my house. I would make all of Bob's, they'd call them song demos. I mean, they were records,
Yeah.
We'd make a record and send it to the artist or to the producer or to the label. And that's how you would get a cut. And oftentimes, I would send song demos. Barry would send song demos, and they go, we love this production. It's like, who did this? It's like, well, the songwriter, Marc Ribler did it. And I would get productions from home demos,
Oh, that's all. Sometimes you get it becomes a master too, once in a blue moon, no?
Sometimes a demo will become a master, or they'll want to use the vocal performance, or, Yeah, because they, for whatever reason, the artist can't capture the emotion that they did on the demo. So that was the time of, having to make great song demos. And, a lot of times the producer would, they would copy your arrangement. It's like, why it's not broken. Why fix it?
Right.
This is what we're attracted to. So let's reproduce it. Let's recreate it. Or call the guy that did it and give him a job. So then I wrote a couple songs on Lee Aaron's next record. And then I had a few cuts with this band, Helix, another Canadian band.
Yeah, I remember them.
Bob Halligan wrote "Rock You" for Helix. And I'd written a song called "Good to the Last Drop," and I had about 3 or 4 songs on one album. And actually, Tony Bon Jovi's cousin, who owned Power Station, he was the executive producer on that album.
Oh, cool.
I produced 3 songs under Tony on that record. It's like 1989.
So now you're doing production, which is like the next phase.
Yeah, sort of songwriting and production kind of, they went hand in hand for me. Like I would always, writing songs, I would always hear them, I would hear the arrangement as the lyrics and melodies were coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
what was
the aspect of,
What was your, of all these things, or maybe something that you haven't even said, was there a quote break? What was your, I'd say getting with that guy and being mentored by him was definitely one of them.
That was certainly, that led me, well, Barry's the one who led me to the, the hit records that we had,
Yeah.
Me and Barry worked together until like the mid 2000s, and we're still very close friends. It's just the business has changed, and the last, it just became difficult to make a living together. It was easier. That's why I got more into touring. And
you can't make a living alone, let alone make a living together. It's tough. It's like having a business. My wife she's a real estate agent. She's got these clients, and she's telling me, real nice guys, there's like 5 partners. I'm like, how the hell are you going to make money with 5 partners? I mean, it's tough.
Is everything split equally between them, or is there like a person?
I don't know, but that's, I've been a business owner for 20 something years. That's probably not a venture. You better have something really successful. My point is that it's kind of the same thing now. You're lucky if you could do it on your own, let alone split.
Yes. Well, I mean, and then even in like the 2000s, I mean, we'd had a bunch of hits, and then he introduced me to this guy, Arthur Payson. Arthur was a great engineer. He was Desmond Child's engineer for many years,
Okay.
And he went out on his own as a producer, and Arthur was a fan of my songwriting, and he was going to be producing this guy, Mitch Malloy, on RCA Records. This is like 1989. We met with Arthur, and Arthur felt like Mitch, who was a great singer, he needed help with his songwriting. So he put us together. we wrote this song called Nobody Wins in This War. And we sent just like a guitar demo to the label. Rick Aliberti, who was the head of A&R at the time, flipped out. He says, you guys got to write the whole record. He said, I want you guys to write, you know? So me and Mitch got, for about a month, we were writing it, you know, almost every day. And I ended up with 5 or 6 songs on his debut record. And there were a couple of them, 3 of them charted, you know, like in the 20s.
Is that the one that had that Anything at All on it?
Yeah, Anything at All, Nobody Wins in This War, and Our Love Will Never Die. It was 3 songs that, and by the way, these songs they were going to be top 10 songs. They were flying up the chart. I mean, they were doing really well at the same exact moment that Nirvana's record came out.
Oh, that toppled everybody, man.
I mean, literally, because I would say these were pop rock records that, you know, sort of like hit-oriented music that was, you know, it wasn't outside the box of what was happening, but the grunge thing literally came in and crushed my songwriting career at that time. It was like this, it was like, you know, I remember seeing the video on MTV, and literally like the next week I saw our records they had bullets. They were all in the 20s, like flying up a chart. You know, one week it's 32, the next week it's 24. It's moving.
Mm.
Nirvana came out and everything tanked. It was rough, man. I mean,
yeah.
Literally it took me 6 years to get to that point. You know, I had some hits in Canada and Europe, but they're much smaller markets. You really, you know, you want to make it in America.
Absolutely.
Know? Even Germany. I mean, Germany's half the market of the States. Like a gold record is 250,000 in Germany. Here it's 500,000. So we'd had some success, but it was like, okay, I'm finally going to make it big in America, having hit records. Tanked, right? And at the same time, Rick Aliberti called me to have a meeting. He was the head of, you know, RCA at the time I was telling you about. Rick says, I love what you've done for Mitch. You know, we love the record. I'm backtracking a little bit. This is about 6 months before Nirvana. He says, do you have any interest in being an artist yourself? You write songs for yourself. I go, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for years. So he says, I'd love to hear, can you play me something? So I play him this song, a song I wrote probably 1986, a few years earlier. It's called Intimate Strangers. Now, this is the first song that, aside from the cut that I got, but the first song where everyone wanted to cut this song. Hart wanted to cut this song. Eddie Money wanted to cut the song. Gene Simmons was managing Liza Minnelli. This is like 19.
That's weird.
It's weird, right? He's managing. Well, he was doing movies and he was doing Kiss, and Gene is a businessman.
Right. I get it, but that's weird. It's a weird combination, but you know they had a connection, obviously. So,
and the guy from Styx, Dennis DeYoung.
Yeah.
Gene had Dennis DeYoung producing her album, right? They want to get Liza Minnelli a pop deal. Now, Liza Minnelli's she's like a
show tunes, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But they're gonna pool all their resources and get her a pop record deal. So I'm thinking, hey man, Gene Simmons at the time, you know, very powerful figure in the business. Yeah. Dennis DeYoung, Styx was still having hits. They're going to get Liza Minnelli a deal. So they flipped out about this song, Intimate Strangers. They record the song. A year goes by. This is like 1987, 88. A year goes by. Me and Barry are in LA. We meet Gene at SIR. He says, I have a copy of the recording, of the master. That's, you know, we're going to get it shopping for the deal. Gives us a copy of the song. It was the worst piece of shit ever. It was terrible, man. It was.
You went from being so proud to have written that song to like
wrong. It was like I said to Barry, I go, they're gonna get this signed. I said, And this is how it used to be. You would wait a year for something maybe to hopefully happen or nothing, you know?
You're thinking if he gets his sign, not only are you is he a musician, but he's also a magician.
Exactly.
Holy,
you know?
That's terrible, man. Oh,
So and subsequently, she never got a pop deal, and I could see why, man.
yeah.
I'll play you the demo at some point. I got to find the demo.
I'd like to hear that. That would be
my version, and I'll send you a live.
That would be great, man. I would love that. That would be cool. Man, that had to be so. Now, were you precluded at that point from allowing anybody else to record that song?
By the time I had brought it to Rick Aliberti, it sort of had. It was the weirdest thing, man. It was the most excitement to that point in my career that I'd ever had about anything that I had done, and nothing. I mean, it got recorded by this Canadian artist. Maybe it charted. I don't even know. This is like years after that, but. It's the one song that there was so much excitement. It's like, this song is going to, me and Barry just thought this is going to be a song.
Yeah.
And really, it got recorded once or twice by kind of, artists that aren't household names. But, all these household names wanted to record it,
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it never saw the light of day. It never got recorded. Someone in A&R said, there's no, we finished recording the record. There's no more room for any other outside songs, whatever the reason, it's a rough business, man.
Yeah.
And you get beat up,
That's like falling in love, finding your soulmate, and you come home one day and she just moved out. Like, what the fuck? That has to be like the feeling with all this euphoria and romance around the song. And then it's just like.
Then it's right. It's
yeah.
Like, you get, you're about to ask the woman to marry you and she breaks up with you.
Yeah, it's like, I'm out. Yeah.
Beautiful dinner and she goes, baby, this shit ain't working.
Yeah, right. I packed my shit. I'm gone. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that had to take a lot of steam out of you.
It makes you resilient, It could put you in a mental institute,
Yeah.
Which, you live and die for all of these things, man. Like, you're waiting a year, and at that age, you're not very patient, and you have these expectations.
Well, that's the problem. Everybody's giving you these people that are, when I say smarter than you, had more experience than you, had given you all these expectations, and you're a kid basically, and you're like, it's almost like Santa Claus.
They are Santa Claus, man.
Yeah.
They're the genie,
Yeah, and then
these people, it's like, this person could change my life.
Right. Or not, unfortunately. Yeah.
Rick Aliberti, right? So
yeah.
Let me hear your music. I play him Intimate Strangers. Flips out. Says, this is great. I want to hear more music. How do you feel about a development deal with RCA Records? I go, and I'm sitting there saying, what are you fucking, inside my head.
Twist my arm. No, I don't want to be an artist and get all the shit thrown at me. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to, this is like, I don't want to, sign the first step to my dream being fulfilled.
Right.
So I said, very calmly, I said, Rick, that sounds great. I said, let's sit down with Barry. Let's talk about it. So Barry was my career manager, so the following week we go to Rick's office. Now at the time I had friends. They were getting development deals. Usually you get like $5,000. You go, you make some demos, turn them into the label. They say yes or no. So I'm expecting, maybe we'll get $5. We go, me and Barry go to the office. Rick says, so I love this song. I have a great feeling about what you can do here. I want to give you $25,000.
Oh, you must have shit yourself.
Development deal. How do you feel about that? And me and Barry totally, professional and contained.
Yeah.
We looked at each other. Obviously, we were so elated.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, we should talk it over, but we're inclined to want to move forward,
Yeah.
So, we had a lawyer look at the deal. It was like a 6-month deal. You had to turn in a certain amount of songs, 5 songs. I gave Barry got his commission, gets his 20%. So I had $20,000. I bought a new microphone. I did some updates to my studio. Fortunately, I had a recording studio. I didn't have to go and spend all that money in a studio.
Yeah, that's great.
I had a good home studio, you know. I started making my demos. The label was excited about the music. And like I said before, this is when the grunge thing is coming on. RCA, like we're at the end of they have to make a decision. RCA is purchased by BMG Music, Bertelsmann Music Group.
Yeah.
They dropped 40 of their signed acts. As soon as they came in, they cleaned house. They got rid of all the development acts. So my thing was dead.
Had you gotten, so you got paid though already? They just canceled the rest of your deal.
$25,000.
Yeah,
you know?
Okay. Thank God for that.
We weren't taking that back.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, I mean, I thought I was getting my record deal. And literally, that's the effect that grunge had on the industry. And I'm sure if you ask other songwriters or...
Oh, I've spoken to a number of guitar players that, you know, 1980 came, as soon as the hair metal bands came, boom, they're out of business. 1990 comes, as soon as Nirvana comes, boom, they're out of business. And a lot of guys were super successful in the era, the era prior to that. Like, you know who sticks out of my mind? You know Steve Hunter?
Steve Hunter, yeah.
From Alice Cooper's band. Yeah. It was Dick, what the hell was his? Anyway, tremendous guitar. Played on Aerosmith's. Played on he did all of the early Alice Cooper stuff. He played on Lou Reed, the whole intro solo to Rock and Roll, that was him on the live record. Anyway, he said the same thing happened. He said, I was so busy, and literally, I guess it was when hair metal or metal came out, the phone overnight stopped ringing.
Yeah, man, it's that profound.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's like, and I think that's what happens, you know, it's like a pandemic, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a musical pandemic.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's a great analogy. Yeah. Everything ceased to be.
Exactly.
Everything as it was ceased to be. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So what happened next, man?
Well, the positive thing that came out of that is it positive, and also I'm very when I take things on, I'm very focused by nature. Like it's like, you know, working with Steven like the last bunch of years, you know, it eclipses everything. It's a lot of responsibility. So at the time, it's like, you know what? I'm going to back the gas off of songwriting for other people, whether it be writing with them, writing for other artists. I'm going to put all my energy into really seeing through my own artist thing. Like the RCA development deal was a catalyst for really focusing on my artistry more than I ever had. And I'd always done it, but till that point, I was always a little more clear about what a singer needed for themselves. An artist that I was hired to write with, I was more clear about what they needed than a lot of times, like sort of writing and producing myself and being clear about it. It's very complex.
It's very hard to look at yourself because you have to step out of with anything you're doing. Yes. I find, like, for me, when I have to do that, I have to look at myself, not with music, obviously, but with other issues or other business stuff. What would I say to me if I was a client of mine? And if I do that, I'm able to work it through. But if I don't do that, I'm in it. I have to detach and say, if I was my client, what kind of advice? Because I can give people, I'm very direct, and I don't bullshit. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this with me, but I can't pretend. I got to pretend I'm someone else.
That's right.
It's tough.
You have to create an objective way of looking at yourself. Yeah, you have to detach. It's like really putting your emotions aside. You know,
put everything aside. That's the problem. Yeah. You just got to look at this like it's someone else. Again, that's what I have found helpful.
It takes years, you know, like you start developing the tools, and it happens when it happens, you know.
Yeah.
And it took, I mean, it was a process, you know, and literally I would say it was about 2 years after that. So this is 91. The the development. I had the development deal. 92, we had the songs riding up the chart with Mitch Malloy. The grunge thing came in. Everything, all in that 91, 92 period changed everything. So by 90, I would say by 93, 94, with all the focus that I had, I really kind of was able to, to be objective about myself as an artist, writing for myself, producing myself. And I had a band and we were showcasing for the labels, and there was a lot of excitement, and I didn't get signed. It didn't happen. And being, most of us are sensitive people, us creative people,
Yeah.
Literally, I stayed focused at it. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I moved to Manhattan. This is 1997.
Where were you living in the city?
I was living on Front Street. I was living right by the South Street Seaport.
Way downtown.
Way downtown in the financial district.
Yeah, that's an odd place to live. I don't think I don't mean odd like weird. It's just, I don't usually, it's not really residential, or especially back then it wasn't.
It was the beginning. Well, there was the, what's it called? Beekman Towers. There was some residence down there. There was you had the fish market.
Yeah.
You had these sort of, these lofts, and there was some condos and stuff, but it was, it was mostly business. After Wall Street closed, it was quiet at night. There was no nightlife down there.
Yeah.
It was weird. I moved down there because the apartment I got, I was able to record drums. I mean, everything was based around being able to record my music, produce other artists.
It's probably really affordable too, I would imagine.
It was half the price of the amount of space I had.
Yeah.
Half the price of anywhere else in the city.
It totally makes sense, man. Yeah.
I had a great house in Brooklyn. It was a little beyond my reach. I was renting it, and it was actually a great sounding house for making records, for recording, But it was a little out of my reach at the time to buy. So I ended up moving to the city. And I was there for about a month or so, and I took a walk by the South Street Seaport, and I see this guy playing. This guy who became a very dear friend. He's playing a Bob Dylan song, and he's 20 years older than me. He had a busker's box. People were putting tips in. He's playing music on the street, and I don't know, somehow we started talking. I gave him a tip, and we started talking. He said, I told, my girlfriend at the time said, oh, Mark's, he's a great musician too. You guys should play together, or whatever. He says, come down tomorrow and sit in with me, So I go down the next day. This was like my welcome mat to the neighborhood,
You're busking day.
I literally, I went down the next day. He says, he was kind of in charge of the buskers. He says, what? He said, would you like to get a busker permit? And, I said, yeah, man. So he got me a permit. He got me my busker's box. And literally I would play out there because I was working on my original music. I wasn't really making a living as a songwriter at that time,
Right.
Put all that aside. And literally I would play at the South Street Seaport for thousands of tourists. And I would play some original music, but mostly cover songs.
Yeah, of course.
And what I felt like were the most popular, I would find out what the most popular songs
like American Pie and stuff like that.
American Pie. People would put 20s and 100s in, I swear.
Yeah.
American Pie, what's that? You've Got a Friend,
Yeah.
Any Beatles song, any Simon and Garfunkel song.
Right.
And for 2 years, I mean, I'd be out there on Thanksgiving. There was an ice rink. I used to even go out and play. I'd have gloves on, my hands basically cracking and bleeding from the cold. But I would play on the street, man. And in the summers, I'd be out there for 8-10 hours.
So you busked for 2 years.
I was busking the whole entire time I lived in New York City.
Wow. Oh my God. That is really the weather. And in the summer, it's fucking hot. It's not
really hot, man.
It's brutal with the humidity.
And you can't just run. You just can't go to the bathroom when you have to. You have your guitar, and I had a little battery powered PA system.
Yeah.
I had you have your box, hopefully full of money that day. I mean, on a Saturday, I'd be out there for 10 hours. It was this seduction. I'd make $800 on a Saturday.
Wow. So you were doing, so if you just worked Saturday alone, you'd be making 40 grand a year, which was a decent wage back then.
Winter, the summer you would make 800.
Okay.
In the winter,
Yeah, probably not.
I go out for an hour and a half and make, $40,
Yeah.
But that was my primary source of income. It was weird, man. It's like, but I loved it. I loved playing for strangers, and it really kind of, it really sharpens your performance skills because you have to engage and you have to create an audience. Otherwise, you're going to be bored shitless and you're not going to make any money. So it sharpens your skills.
So let me ask you this. Up to us doing this interview, right? Your communication with me was so nice and so positive. And I noticed that because I always notice shit like that. And if it's negative, I notice that. Yeah. Is that, were you always like that? I bet a lot of that you learned busking. Not that it's phony, but like you understood the value. I bet that you came to understand the value of that interaction.
Okay, here's where it comes from, Craig. And then
I even mentioned to my wife, I said, God, this guy's so fucking happy. He's such a nice guy. I'm looking forward to talking to him. No, it was really nice. But it wasn't like layered up. Like some people oh, you could tell when people bullshit. I can. I mean, most people can, But it was just like nice. Like, it was like, well, this guy's really nice. Look at that.
Hey, man, our buddy Jack Daly's introducing us. Jack says, you love Craig, which I did immediately. We hit it off. I like who you were. And
thank you.
Jack's one of my dearest friends, And if he says that, I put a lot of value in it,
Sure.
And, it's a respect thing, I tell you what, Craig, my mom, God rest her soul, my mom and dad, especially my mom, is a people person, man. Like she was an incredible listener, and she was, it's your mom. So I was around her, and she had incredible people skills. And my dad was always he's a great listener, So I had those tools to bring, and then I had to bring that, it's like, well, how do you communicate with a group of people with those, it's one-on-one is one thing, you know what I mean? But you're right. So it was like, it was an opportunity to refine what, thank God, my parents who were, I feel very blessed. They were very liberal. There was no prejudice in my house, man. I never heard a negative word towards another ethnic group when I grew up. I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn. Everyone, my friends were Black, Puerto Rican, Jewish, Italian, Irish, everything, Yeah,
that wasn't an issue.
None of that. And my parents, if I brought my Black friends home or my Jewish friends or my Puerto Rican friends, my parents, I never sensed, they treated everyone the same,
Sure.
And they showed respect, and I just took that. Thank God I had those great role models for how to show people respect and how to treat people, So in an audience setting, like somehow you have to figure out how to communicate that to a group of people. So I started performing at a very young age, but for a lot of years I was like the guitar player. I would sing some songs, but it wasn't my thing. So I was in a supporting role. So I really didn't start fronting band, for an audience until I was in my probably my mid-20s,
Yeah.
By the time I was living in New York City, I was already in my early 30s so.
It's interesting. You're only the third person out of 725 that I've spoken to that's busked.
You've had 725 interviews?
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. That's so many.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. I didn't realize you had that many.
Yeah, but you're only the third person that's busked. That's really interesting.
Man, busking is, in a million years, I never thought I would have, hey man, I've played weddings. I've played bar mitzvahs, I've played retirement parties, funerals. I've played memorial services, acoustic singing I did this memorial service for this guy who was a pilot, and they wanted me to sing flying songs, like leaving on a jet plane, and
right.
It's very emotional, but
yeah.
I mean, being a musician, man, it's like when you sign on, which you don't even realize that you're signing on, you might have to do anything. It's like, I've always viewed it as, thank God I'm able to play music,
and get paid. I know. Yeah. The better quality people and the more grateful people all look at it like that.
Yeah, man. It's like you have to be a Boy Scout. You have to be resourceful if you want to survive in the business. That being said, I worked when I did weddings, and I could only do it for a certain amount of time because there was a lot of very toxic people in the industry, and they were kind of like sort of musicians, but they became the band leaders. And without mentioning names, because it doesn't matter, but at one point I had done it. I did it for a couple years, I was having slow times as an artist.
Sure.
And I was able to do it for a couple years, and then I stopped completely. Now, that being said, if someone called me and said, I want you to put a great band together for this, we want to have this rock and roll wedding, and, I'm down because, people, they really want to have a good time. That's different, But anyway, being a busker or a wedding musician, it's like, it's just part of in a million years, when I signed on, I never thought that I would be working for tips, playing on the street, fighting the elements,
That is what was the financial arrangement was you just had to pay an annual fee for the license and you just had to behave or did they get a cut?
No, there was no annual fee. It was simply, you had a permit.
Wow.
And they didn't take a cut. There was a limit to how many hours you could, or, you could have like back to back. There was a bunch of people that were busking at the South Street Seaport at the time.
Sure.
There's also like ventriloquists, there was other people busking musicians. But whatever you made was yours. They let you use their box. You represented the South Street Seaport, and so it was
official.
Yeah, it was official. You had to dress. You couldn't wear. You couldn't wear holy. You had to be clean and presentable. But yeah.
Dude, it beats standing there with a squeegee off the fucking East Side Highway, right?
I would have. It's funny you say that. This was right by the Fulton Fish Market.
Yeah.
There was these two guys. Speaking of like squeegees, but Jerry. One guy's name was Jerry, and this other guy. Now these were both former fishmongers, or they worked at the fish market. They were homeless. They were both alcoholics. They lived out of shopping wagons, but they would come every day, and Jerry would ask me to play Time in a Bottle.
Oh, that's so sad, man.
And bro, I'd be playing it, and Jerry would be, Jerry's at the time, probably in his mid-60s, very disheveled, living on the street, not clean, but standing there and crying his eyes out,
Yeah, you wonder.
I felt like, hey man, I'm allowed to give Jerry this gift every day, man. It's like all he just wants to hear that song, and then he goes about his day, and so that's such a gift, man. Like,
yeah,
music heals people, it does.
Wow.
That's on the most basic level,
Yeah, sure.
So,
wow.
So it's interesting, like the things you see. And,
so how did you tear yourself away from busking? What did you do next?
Oh, well, I'll tell you how I tore myself away. The universe or God or whatever, or karma tore me away. Literally about a year. Actually, no, the first summer I started busking. And literally, like I said, I'd be out there on a Saturday, 10 hours. Almost, maybe I would I would run across the street from where I was, and I have to keep an eye on my stuff to try to run to the bathroom,
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine that.
But there would be, I'd get like a cup of chili, and that's what I would eat, and I get a couple bottles of water. And what I noticed was, and this is a little, you know, it's kind of a heavy graphic thing, but a couple months into it, I started noticing like I was getting kind of weird digestive pains, you know. I hope it's cool to talk about this, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, I noticed like one time I went to the bathroom and I noticed some blood, you know.
Oh man.
And this is going on for a couple months, and it wasn't getting any better. So I went to
like a gastroenterologist.
Yeah. And he did it was called a sigmoidoscopy.
Yeah.
And it's not quite a colon. It's like just before a colonoscopy. And he said, man, I'm sorry to tell you, man, you have ulcerative colitis. So
holy shit.
And you're going to bleed, you know, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get, unless you take these meds. And I was like, take these meds. It was like, at the time, mind you, I was a runner. I used to run 5 to 7 miles a day for years. I was a vegetarian. I was very suspicious about, you know, about drugs and the MDA. You know, I felt like, you know, I didn't want to take drugs. I didn't believe in allopathic medicine at that time. Anyway, I decided not to take the drugs, and, you know, literally, and I battled it for a couple of years. And 2 years later, I was in the hospital for 4 months. I went down to 110 pounds. I mean, for the 2 years, I tried everything to, you know, everything non-pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
And eventually I literally was in the hospital for 4 months. I was running to the bathroom 30 times a day, just blood.
God.
I had to have this surgery. Everything that I thought, I had to go 180 degrees. It's like I needed meds, you know. A lot of meds didn't work. They had me on steroidal therapy. I was fed through, I couldn't even eat. I was fed through a stint.
Oh my God.
They gave me chemotherapy, cyclosporin, because it's an autoimmune disease, to shut my immune system down, to try to stop this bleeding. You know?
And you're a kid, or you're young, and when you're younger,
I was 35 then.
But they hit you harder with those drugs when you're younger.
Oh yeah, man. It was. Yeah. I mean, and literally to go from not taking any drugs, the pain management. I mean, anyone who has ulcerative colitis will tell you it's a very painful disease. You know. And I was addicted to Dilaudid. I was addicted to morphine. For 4 months, I was in a private room in a hospital, and finally I had this surgery that saved my life. And I went from 190 pounds, when all was said and done, I was 110 pounds.
Holy shit. Your folks must have been freaking out.
My dad, my mom she could hardly bear to see me. You know, my dad was at the hospital every single day, by my bedside, you know, just to make sure, you know, do whatever he could do, you know. He was just
holy shit.
And so literally, you know, I look at it like, okay, the music business almost killed me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I used to take everything so personally, and I was so serious. It's like, and that disease and my health crisis and healing gave me this incredible appreciation for, you know, for what, you know, the things that are valuable, your family, your health. If you don't have your health, is the most important thing we have.
For sure, man.
So it was a tremendous transformation, you know, and thank God I came out the other end, and I survived. This doctor, this guy, Michael Arvanitis, gastroenterologist surgeon, he saved my life. And, you know, I go for my yearly checkups with him, you know.
So do you still have ulcerative colitis?
No. After I'm in the hospital for about a month and a half, they send Michael Arvanitis into my room. Now, in order to keep me in the hospital, they have chemo.
Thank God you were sick all those years ago. Nowadays, you'd be there 3 days. They'd have your ass out, and you go home, brother. You're not staying.
Exactly, and they wanted me out. Literally, the only reason I would go back to I'd be in for like a week, and they had me on cyclosporin. Like if I didn't, which is like chemotherapy. They said, if you don't take this, then we can't have you in the hospital. By the way, chemo feels like death coming into your, lack of a better explanation. You feel ill when it goes in, and I didn't want to take it. But the doctor, the RN would come in and say, I told you, doctor, you don't want to take your chemotherapy. And she said, if you don't take your chemo, you don't get your pain meds.
Oh, wow.
I was addicted to Dilaudid just because of the pain management.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was this crazy, very crazy period. But literally, I would need 12 units of blood when all was said and done. I'd go home, and I'd have to come back and they'd have to give me a couple units of blood to get my hemoglobin to like a safe level, Because
holy shit.
Going to the bathroom, blood, crazy.
Oh, and how, so this finally remediated, everything finally kicked in.
I'm in the hospital for a month and a half. Dr. Arvanites comes in. At the time, I was reading this Jerry Garcia's biography. When I was a kid, I was into the Dead. When I was in the hospital, Sgt. Pepper and Bob Dylan kept me alive.
Right.
I would listen to the Beatles and Dylan. All the music I grew up with, I would listen to all day. I'm reading this book. He comes in. He goes, "Oh, I just got that book. How is it?" So right away we connect.
Yeah.
And then we talk for a minute. Then he says, "Okay, you need this surgery." Now, by the way, I'm against allopathic medicine. The only reason I'm in the hospital is because I need blood.
Yeah.
Which is a good reason for to need medical assistance. And he comes in and he says, "Okay, so this is your colon. Your colon is destroyed from this." They looked at a colonoscopy that they took. We're going to remove your colon completely, and from your small intestine, we're going to create this new plumbing.
Yeah.
He shows me this whole thing, and I'm sitting in the bed like, I'm thinking, you are fucking kidding me.
Yeah, that's the worst when they like sketch it out, and it's
no way. Well, it's only because I'm so here, and I need to be here to be on the same page with the AMA and.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst though, man.
This is this place, right? So I said, so he left, whatever, and I, food for thought, whatever. My sister at the time, who was very involved in the holistic community, her and her husband, they were both network chiropractors, and she's a nutritionist, but they would have these, these new age groups that they were friends with, and they did a healing circle. So this is a couple weeks later. And, I'm in the hospital. I need blood, a couple times a week. I'm addicted to pain meds. I'm on chemotherapy. I'm getting steroidal therapy, which is making me so, like nervous, and
nutty.
And then from going from no drugs to like all drugs, you're on the steroids, and then you need Klonopin to calm you down because the steroids are making you.
Holy shit!
Psychotic. I'm becoming psychotic.
Yeah.
The meds, So my sister says, "Mark, we're going to have this healing circle for you tonight." Great, Ina. I mean, this is great. I was very excited about it, right?
Yeah.
So whatever, I talked to her, whatever, around dinner time. She goes to the circle. I fall asleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, and I don't know. I mean, I'm remembering this. I don't know where I am, what I'm doing, where I am, who I am. And somehow I go into the bathroom, and I'm sitting in the bathroom, in my clothes, in my whatever I was wearing, underwear, and I'm just completely, it must have been a psychotic episode. I had no idea. I was in this unbelievable pain, but I couldn't figure out how to get from point A to point B. Like, how do I get from, I don't know what's going on, to help, to getting some, at some point I figured out to ring the buzzer for my nurse, and they came and they gave me my pain meds. And I go through the night, and I wake up the next morning. My sister calls me. She says, "Mark," she said, "how are you?" I said, Ina, I said, I have to say I had the worst night of my life, and I can't really explain other than I tried to explain the way I did to you. And she said, oh, we had this most amazing, we felt like, you know, this healing circle was amazing. And we felt like, you know, it really made a difference. And I said, Ina, I said, I'm having that surgery. I said, the answer is, and in retrospect, that was the healing.
Yeah. The
healing was realizing that
you needed
whatever you think is not going to be the way you're going to get help.
Yeah.
You have to, this guy, Michael Arvanitis, has the answer to you living or not living. And you have to, this is what you have to do.
The pain of not doing it finally became much greater than the pain of doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he, anyway, I called it, my dad called the doctor and we set up an appointment for Monday morning, the following Monday. And the doctor at the time, he was on vacation in Aspen, he's skiing. Sunday night and operate on you Monday morning. I was like, oh, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And after we did the surgery, and they completely remove your colon, and they create this new plumbing. So, you know, it's crazy. Like you have a colostomy bag for 6 weeks, you know, which is a whole other, all these things are happening. It's like, it seems like.
Dude, this pandemic is nothing for you.
And it's just,
I mean, I'm not being funny. No, I'm not being funny, but like, seriously, like what, I mean, like, this is like major shit that you've been through.
It's all, you know what, man? It's all part of our personal growth.
Yeah.
I really believe you go through all these things, you know, people go through trauma and pain and life, you know, changing experiences to become more evolved, you know?
Yeah.
Like you could take the pandemic and hate the world and hate everybody and be miserable, or use it as a tool for, you know, hey man, I have to accept that I have to make changes, and maybe everyone on this planet needs to really look at their lives and how their behavior is.
Yeah. What can I get out of this? What can I get out of this? You know, not like gain, but get. What can I get out of this? You know, as a human being.
Am I part of the solution or the problem?
Right.
You know, I mean, and the same. It was the same. It's exactly a health crisis, a pandemic crisis, which is a health crisis, obviously. Yeah. I mean, these things, you know, it forces people to look, you know, and I don't want to talk about politics or anything, but it's like, what are we doing? And by the way, why are we so divided? And what, you know, we have to exist together, man. We have to coexist. Otherwise, this shit's over. This is the Roman Empire at its last leg, you know, like we were talking about before. This is the Aztecs. You know, there's the Aztec ruins and the Mayan ruins. That used to be a rich civilization.
Yeah, well, I hope not. I hope that's,
the vision becomes so great that. Anyway, I went through that whole thing, Craig, and it gave me a greater appreciation for everything. It took me a couple of years to really get my strength back. The doctor said if I'd waited 2 more days to make that decision, my colon would have perforated and I would have died.
Oh my God.
Literally, the healing circle it worked.
That was a catalyst, yeah.
It was a catalyst. You know, whatever energy I got from that or that horrible night that I had, it was like, it gave me the insight that you have to do this, you know? And it's like, it was like the furthest away from where I was philosophically. But it's like, sometimes you have to go these extremes to, you know, to survive, you know?
Yeah, well, life doesn't always let you do what you want. That's the bottom line.
That's right, man. That's right. You have to, it's about acceptance, it's about evolving. It's about rising above your current situation. And that usually is not the way you want to evolve. It's because in the pain is where the tool.
Yeah, where the growth is, unfortunately. Yeah. Right. Tuition lessons are extra. Yeah. That's tuition right. Costs.
Tuition costs.
So it took you 2 years then to come back to normal.
Yes.
Physically.
Basically, this was.
So like career wise, you were pretty much shut. I'm assuming you're pretty much close to shut down during then, or?
Literally, I'm backtracking a little bit, but in 1999, I was living in Manhattan for 2 years. My lease was up. I was going to move to Brooklyn. I found a place. As it turned out, the landlord was a thief, a grifter. I found this place, and it turned out, my dad's an electrician, and I had my dad look, and he said, the landlord lived upstairs. He's getting his meter's running. He's getting his electricity from your meter.
Oh my God.
Anyway, I couldn't move in. I'd already given him $3,000 or $4,000, for the first month. And, anyway, I had to take him to court. And this is my ulcerative colitis. This exacerbates everything.
Yeah.
So April of 1999, I moved in with my parents. May of 1999, I get a call from this guy, David Z. David Z was Prince's engineer.
Okay.
David Z also, he produced Funky Town. He produced the Fine Young Cannibals. David lives in Nashville. Barry, my manager, sent him my artist demos. He flips out. I want you to come. This is the summer of 1999. I want you to come down to Memphis. We're going to go record at House of Blues. We're going to mix at Ocean Way. We're going to use Memphis and Nashville session musicians. We're going to record, and I'm going to get you a record deal. Drive down to Memphis in July, with all my amps that I want to use on the record, all my favorite guitars. We go to House of Blues, which it's Isaac Hayes owns the studio. And at the time, Matchbox 20 just finished recording their record at this studio.
Oh, cool.
And I knew, no one knew who Matchbox 20 was at the time, but it was
right.
I heard some of their record. I go, these guys are really good. I was really excited. I was like, here I am, at the onset of my health crisis, but this opportunity comes, Anyway, we record, we go to Ocean Way, we do the mixes, and it wasn't right. I was so excited about, anyway, it didn't sound right. Another defeat. And I was like, a month later, I was in the hospital. And that was it. I mean, at that point, the stress level exacerbated my condition,
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I had to move in with my parents because that apartment in Brooklyn didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I went through that period. I ended up living with my parents another year after my health crisis, getting my strength back.
Sure.
And I wrote my first record, and as
while you were recovering.
While I was recovering.
Yeah.
And we'll move on from that topic.
Holy shit. I'm exhausted. Wow. Exhausting. How do you feel today? Any issues?
Man, knock on wood, I feel great.
Good. I know you're fit and you take good care of yourself, so that helps, obviously.
I could eat whatever I want, I could, the only thing I can't eat is celery and pineapple, and I can eat everything else.
Yeah, you're not missing anything with celery, man. I got to be honest with you.
I like drinking celery juice, though. So,
I mean, it's funny because this is like really weird and random, but man, I used to enjoy celery when I was a kid. I don't know what it is now. It's like eating sticks or something. I don't know, man. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. The sticks is what's not good for me, the stick part.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah, so anyway,
that's pretty good that you're healthy, though, and there's really no ramifications dietary-wise.
Literally, Michael Arvanitis, the doctor, saved my life. He's an angel. I owe my life to the guy. I mean, he literally, whatever he did, made me healthy like I was before, And yeah.
Did you had a lot of fodder for songs?
Man, I mean, my first album, which came out, which I wrote during that period in 2001, 2002, right around 9/11 was when a lot of my album was written. And that was a whole other pandemic of sorts, I wrote all these songs, and then I just, I saved up some money and I went in and recorded my first record. And I used Rich Mercurio on drums, John Conte on bass, great bass player who's played with everybody. This guy, Rob Arthur, he's been Peter Frampton's keyboardist and guitarist. Rob played keyboards. And I went and recorded, my first album was called Life is But a Dream. And a lot of the songs are about the health crisis and going through it and coming out the other side and evolving and it's a somewhat philosophical record, but it's, I'm kind of a pop rock guy, so it's, it's fairly upbeat, Yeah.
Wow, man. I'm just like, what a story. I wasn't expecting that.
Hey man, and edit it however you feel,
Oh, I'm not editing anything. It's great. I'm just like, wow. It's like, that's what I love about talking to so many people, man. Everybody's got a story, and
got a story.
With rare exception, life, you don't get out unscathed. Everybody, all of us, it's just to what degree and how good are you at bouncing back?
That's right. How resilient, how resilient are you? How much we're all survivors of something.
Right.
And anyone, you can't. That's why, it's very easy to judge people and say, this guy's an addict, and why can't he get out of his own way, But everyone has that in some level in their life, even, people that, they own these beautiful homes and on some level there is a challenge.
Yeah. Money is this, addiction, illness, fucked up marriages. That's not a discriminatory thing. Like we're,
no one's immune from that. That's right.
No one's immune from that for sure, man. So, okay. So what happened after that? How did you you moved out of your folks' house after that? What happened? How did you get back together? Because that's like mid 2000s now.
Yeah, I moved out of my parents' house in 2000, I think the end of 2001. I moved to a town called Bradley Beach, which is very close to Asbury Park.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I recorded my record. And Barry was still my manager. He sent my record to Ian Anderson's label, Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull.
Yeah. And
the guy who owns the label, I forget what the name of it is, Power, whatever it was. He loved it. He sent my CD to Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson loved the CD and invited me to come play a couple of songs from my record with him at Town Hall in the city.
Oh, that's so cool.
He's one of my idols, man. 1975, I went to see Jethro Tull, Robin Trower, and Rory Gallagher at Shea Stadium,
Oh my God. What a show.
Rory Gallagher, by the way,
Incredible. I had Martin Barr on the show, actually.
Oh, awesome, man. And I was a big Martin fan when I was a kid. I learned all the solos and, he's and I heard he's a great dude.
You know what? He's 77, I think. His enthusiasm to play guitar it was like talking to a 17-year-old.
He does gigs, right?
He's got his own band, Martin Barr band, or Martin Barr, not trio, but he's out playing regularly, making records.
He was the guitar player at the Shea Stadium concert.
That's wild.
So Ian called, and I was like, he's one of my heroes. And he wanted to play. He says, we talk. He says, can I play there was a synthesizer part. The song was called Identity Crisis. He says, I'd love to play that synthesizer part on my flute. I go, it's yours,
Yeah, have at it, right.
We went to Town Hall, we rehearsed. This guy, Bob Buckman from Q104 Radio, he was like the program director. He mediated the show and, he introduced me and, it was quite enough. So it gave me hope that, hey man, I can play my original music and, it helps sell records,
Yeah.
Then I don't know, a year or so later, I met this guy that it was never my intention to do jingles or commercials. I just when I was in the 80s, I'd sang on a few things, but I never felt like something I want to write for, you know. But I don't know if in the 2000s, commercials became they were like pop songs.
A lot of people made really good money. I've talked to so many people who've done very well from jingles.
Actually, I was writing a song with my friend Marcus Wolf, a great guitar player, friend, and he was doing some jingles, and he got a call to write a Diet Coke commercial while we were writing. And he says, you want to write this with me? So we were at my studio in Bradley Beach. I said, yeah, let's do it. You know, we submitted. The head of the company, this guy, Tony Verderosa, we didn't win the spot, but he loved the production that I did, you know? So he started calling me.
Oh, there's a guy from an ad agency who...
Right. So his ad agency was called Thwack. He's a drummer. Thwack Music, like Thwack.
Okay.
Drum mix, the stick mix. And I started submitting, I submitted for a couple other things. And then the third thing I submitted for, I had this song laying around that I wrote. It was called This Life. And I did a shortened version and sent it to Tony. And it was, they were doing an HIV STD awareness commercial for Trojan condoms.
Oh, wow. So
they sent me the picture, it was a 30-second spot. It was a black screen. It said, 40% of people with HIV don't tell their partners. And I was
shit.
I was stunned. I'm just looking at this black screen. And then they show this couple, sitting in the living room together, holding hands or whatever it was. And it was very moving. I just found it, it's Trojan condoms. I'm thinking, that's going to be Trojan Man, or, And a lot of my friends, by the way, made the joke, so a Ribler for her pleasure.
There you go. Could have had a condom named after you. Yeah.
So anyway, so I go and, I submit the song, and the ad agency loves the song. And then we spend the next 6 weeks. They say, we got to go in the studio. We want to work on the chorus. We want to do this, that, and the other thing. We spent 6 weeks to get it back to where it originally was. And ad agencies, all these people are scared to death of losing their jobs. They're scared to make a wrong decision or commit. So, literally, they drove me crazy for 6 weeks.
And it went right back to what the original production was.
Back to the original. And I was like, man, do I even want to do this? Would I even want to do this again? So anyway, when the checks started coming, and I walked go to the mailbox in the morning, there would be a pile of checks. It ran for 2 years, I was like, I guess I could do this for a minute,
Yeah.
Then the guy called I did the Activia. It ran for 10 years. The Activia commercial. Activia.
What is that?
Activia yogurt.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I don't really watch TV, so I'm a little dense on that stuff.
Man,
but
you're better off. I didn't watch any TV until I was making money from commercials. It's
then you have to, because you need to get hip to what's going on in commercials, man. You know.
Exactly. You need to study the art form.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to.
So anyway, and I'd won a bunch of spots and made a good living for a bunch of years doing commercials. And then...
so that was probably, when it comes down to it, even though not what you want to be doing creatively, it was probably a pretty good low-stress way to get back and up and running.
It was, I wouldn't say low stress. It's a high-stress job, because you're dealing with a lot of opinions.
None of them are musicians either. That's probably...
None of them are musicians, or they're frustrated musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of people at ad agencies played guitar when they were a kid, or they were in a band, and they're frustrated, and they have a need to flex their muscles in areas where they're out of their realm.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And they drive you fucking crazy, So it's actually a high stress job. I did it for a few years, and for the most part, you're your own boss, but you have to deal with these people, everything has its price of admission.
Yeah, everything. Absolutely. Wow. So when did you, when did you come back like into the performance music business?
Let's see.
And how did that transpire?
Well, I tell you what, when I got my new place, I needed to make a living. At that point, I wasn't really making a living. I started playing acoustic solo gigs at all these different Jersey Shore bars and restaurants.
Sure. And there used to be plenty of them.
Oh, there used to be tons of them, you know? And so for about, I don't know, 2 years, and it's sort of like, it was an extension of the busking, really, you know?
That was probably really easy for you. You probably go to work like, man, they have air conditioning. It's freezing outside and I'm warm. I got heat.
Take a break and get something to eat, go to the bathroom.
I could actually pee. Yeah.
Have a glass of wine. You know? Yeah. And I mean, literally in the summer, I'd work 7 to 10 gigs a week. I would do doubles. I would have like a steady day, and I'd get a lot of parties from it. So I was able to kind of get back on my feet financially, because when I had my health crisis, I was completely wiped out financially.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I had no, you know, if I wasn't living in my parents' house, I mean, I don't know what I would have done, you know? Yeah. So it helped me get
that's such a fragile thing, man.
Everyone's in that, man. It's like what's going on now. It's like this country lives on their credit card.
Yeah.
So if they're out of work for a couple weeks, a month, God forbid they're out of work for a month, the shit's not getting paid. You know, this economy is so fragile, right? I mean,
yeah, it's so
I
realize even like a 5-star restaurant, people think, oh, they got all the money in the world. They don't. They run on cash flow.
Well, yeah, man,
it's cash flow, man. That bills from this week pay the fucking bills. The cash flow from this weekend pays your bills from next week. They don't have a lot of money, and the cost to run a big, you know, fancy restaurant or 5-star place or whatever, it's a lot of money. It's
a lot of money, man. And you know, right, leasing a building, you know, whatever loans they have, you know, that aren't paid off yet, or you know, and that being said, you know, it's like when there's a pandemic like this, it's like everyone really needs to not work. If we did this responsibly and really shut the country down for a couple months like other countries did, I don't think we'd be dealing with this now. You know, I think they could have.
It's just not practical here, though.
That's right, and you know, it's this country. It's you know, it's capitalism. You know, it thrives on anyway. Enough about the pandemic, but so I started to make money playing in bars and restaurants. Then I started putting bands together, and you know, I'd play some of my original music, and I would play covers, and then and that went on for, you know, I would, you know, I have my commercials. I would score a film for a movie. We'd get some placements in TV or film. So I was making money that way, and then kind of stopped gigging as much. And then in 2012, I had this opportunity to, there's this club in Asbury Park called Tim McClune Supper Club. It used to be the Howard Johnson's. It's right next to Convention Hall at the end of the boardwalk. And I had the opportunity to do an original music / classic rock tribute night. Or that's what the guy asked me what kind of thing I would like to do. It was a regular Tuesday. I would have guest artists every week. You know, people like Joe Vitale from Joe Walsh, you know, Bernard Purdy. We did a night with Bernard Purdy. Boom Carter, who was Bruce's drummer, and David Sanchez's drummer. Boom played Born to Run. That's the only hit that he ever played on. The only Bruce song he ever played on. And that's the song that launched Bruce, you know, with Boom. So we would have these different artists. We'd have different guests every week. And we would do like a classic rock theme, or, you know, if we had someone like Bernard, we would do a retrospective of his career. So we would do Aretha Franklin songs, King Curtis songs, Steely Dan songs.
Did you do the Purdy Shuffle? Like, did he get?
Yeah, I mean, any of the Steely Dan stuff, he was playing the Purdy Shuffle.
That's pretty cool. That must have been pretty cool to like stand there watching the guy do that thing.
Bernard, it's funny, man, because Bernard, he comes to sound check. Now we prepared, you know, we went deep. Like we did Haitian Divorce by Steely Dan. We did a few of the songs that he played on. We did what's it called? Kid Charlemagne, which is
great song.
Great song, right?
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of guest singers, but Bernard played the entire evening. I put a great band together. Jack Daly was on bass. My friend Arna Wendt was on keyboards. We had like a 5-piece horn section. All these different singers, soul singers, rock singers.
This is a big production. Yeah.
Well, it was a regular Tuesday. I would usually charge $10, depending on the night, $10 to $20. And, for most part, we would fill the room every Tuesday. It held a couple hundred people.
Good.
It would be a minimum. Dead of winter, we'd have, 50, 60 people. On a good night, we'd be sold out,
That's great.
And but we were able to do some original music. We conquered every theme imaginable, from the Allman Brothers to Yes, to Jethro Tull, to Steely Dan. And,
so you got your chops back again doing that.
Man, it was a challenge every week. And literally, we would do the gig on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, I would figure out who was going to do the following week with me. A lot of times it was Jack, this guy Arna, all these great different drummers. Like Joe Vitale's a dear friend. Joe would come do it. Rich Mercurio, who I hired for Steven's band. Anyway, Wednesday morning, I'd figured out what the theme was. I would send everyone the music. The following Tuesday, we would have a sound check rehearsal. So everyone had to do their homework.
Yeah, this is a big
sound check rehearsal and play that music that night. There was no 3 days of shedding and rehearsing. It's like you had to be responsible for your shit. And if you didn't have your shit together, you probably weren't going to get called again.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was one and done.
As great as you were, it's like a mutual respect thing.
That's the thing in your business, man. If you're not prepared, you're not working. I mean, that's bottom line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we did that for 3.5 years. As a result, I think just, we'd have Southside Johnny would be a guest, or, and then, someone like Marc Ribler, who's Billy Joel's sax player for 35 years. We'd have Mark. We'd have all these great sidemen from big bands. I'd have them do a night. And
God, I had his guitar player on the show. Everybody with him has been with him for ages.
Yeah, Tommy Burns.
Burns, yeah.
Tommy's a great guy. And Tommy would play. They've been with him forever. And now who knows what's going to be with touring? Period.
Yeah.
But they had the residency at the Garden for they did over 100 shows.
Once a month for
a month.
Yeah.
And essentially that was Billy was very he takes care of his people.
Yeah.
We pay them. I guess they were on salary just to do whether it be one gig and they would do another stadium like each month somewhere.
Yeah, that's a pretty good gig.
Mark's one of my dearest friends. We do some original music together and this and that. Anyway, one night, a friend of mine booked Darlene Love to do a show.
Now tell people who she is, because I had to look her up, to be honest with you. I recognize the name, but I did not have an intimate knowledge.
Everyone knows Darlene's voice. Darlene sang on, dozens of hit records. He was Phil Spector's girl. Like Phil had her sing on everything. And Phil had her as an artist, like there's the famous Phil Spector Christmas record. Darlene sings Christmas Baby, Please Come Home, which if you recall, every Christmas on the David Letterman show, Darlene would come do that song with Paul Schaefer and the band. They would usually have like a huge entourage of horn players and background singers. Darlene, she was on the, was it Shindig or Hullabaloo, which was the music show in the 60s.
Yeah.
Part of the cast. The cast was Glenn Campbell, Sonny and Cher, all these, before they made it, they were the Wrecking Crew. All these people from the Wrecking Crew that were doing all those sessions, that was Darlene and these other people. They were on, was it Shindig? I don't know why I'm drawing the blank.
Was Darlene Love, wasn't she in the 20 feet?
Darlene, here's what happened, okay? Now, I met Darlene in 2011. A friend of mine booked her at McGuinn Supper Club on a Saturday night. So I went to see the show. Me and my friend Sammy Boyd, Darlene and her husband Alton hung out that night after the show. And we hit it off. It was a very nice, very cordial evening. A year later, 20 Feet from Stardom came out. And it won the Academy Award.
Great movie. Really nice movie.
Great movie. And all of our friends are in that movie. My friend Tabitha's in that movie. Lisa Fisher from the Rolling Stones, she's featured prominently in it.
Yeah, she was.
And Darlene came out, rightfully so, and accepted the award. And she sang that spiritual, she sang. She came up on the podium and sang. And she carpe diem that motherfucker. She seized the moment.
That's good.
And I think Steven Van Zandt has known Darlene since the early 80s. Him and Bruce went to see Darlene, and they were huge fans of all those records. She was
right, of course.
They went to see her, and they were blown away. She's she's one of the best singers in the world. Steven will tell you she's the best singer on the planet. Even now, Darlene's going to be 79 next month.
Wow, that is awesome.
So they go to see her. This is like 1980. Steven promises her, I am going to produce your record. Now, how many years goes by? 30, 40 years? 30 years goes by. And they stay friendly, and Steven calls her. He had her sing the song for Home Alone 2, Nobody Wants to Be Alone on Christmas. He had Darlene sang it. It was a hit for Steven. He had Clarence playing, So he always called Darlene for things, And in 2011, he said, I want to take you in the studio. He went to see her at one of her Christmas shows and said, I want to make your debut record, because Phil Spector, it was all about Phil. He never gave Darlene her just due. He always kept her under the radar. That's why no one knows who she is.
Well, a lot of these people were kind of like, you go back years ago into the guys in Memphis. Do you know who Reggie Young was? I don't know if you know who.
I've heard of Reggie, yeah.
Reggie was he just passed about a year or two ago, but he was a musician. Was it Nashville? He was on so many big records, supposedly one of the most recorded guitarists. He played in Memphis in the beginning. So I'm interviewing him. He was 81 at the time of our interview, I think. And I said, what would you get paid for those records? And he goes, or for the sessions. He goes, $10. I said, $10? He goes, for the session? He goes,
outright.
He goes, no, $10 for the day.
Oh my God! For doing sessions all day long, having artists come in.
$10 for the day if they paid you. And that's why he eventually left Memphis and went to Nashville. But so many of these people, it was just abusive, man.
Yeah, so many horror stories. Man.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the 70s, Darlene, who sang on all these hit records, was had to be a cleaning woman to support her family.
Could you imagine?
And you're talking about literally one of the greatest singer performances ever.
Yeah,
right? So she went. So this is her day. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I've asked people, why is that so? It's an interesting thing in this business.
It's so prevalent that people are held down like that.
Yes,
it's ego, man. It's everything. Anything that's unjust in the world is about someone being on a power trip. And someone, it's all ego driven. It's Phil Spector is a megalomaniac.
Well, the other problem is, though, most musicians are not business people. They want to play music. They just want to make music. They want to make themselves happy. They want to make and it's and it's an unfortunate thing, because it's a double-edged sword. That's great. The problem is there's a lot of people that are going to exploit that.
Yes.
Because I've asked this, and I even, because I'm an outside business guy originally coming into this industry, working with everybody, and just basic things like, like marketing, I could tell people are just really uncomfortable with it, just in conversation, even, let alone in practice.
Selling themselves?
Yeah. They're very, not, and just conversationally, not like, hey, what's your marketing plan? Just conversation. And so that's where I think people probably come in and say, hey, well, willing victim, willing predator. And it's just a match, unfortunately. Yeah.
Exactly, man. And musicians need to play.
Right.
So they're willing to, I don't want to say sell their souls out, but because it's not.
They want to play. You said it. You said, Craig, and I've 700 out of the 725 people I've had on the show have said the same thing. Yeah. I just wanted to play music. I didn't do this for the money. I just wanted to.
That was a byproduct. That was
right.
And and a lot of guys say, "Yeah, man, I started playing guitar because I wanted to meet girls." I mean, at 11, the only baseball was on my radar. Maybe I had a crush on a girl. And
most people did not. That I've, it's very small, 5% maybe.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it was. People are really. Everyone needs to be self-expressed. So if you find something, it's like, oh, this I can do it with this. Now, Darlene, it was so appropriate for her to win that award based on her. Out of everyone that was in 20 Feet from Stardom, she's the original.
Yeah.
Like all these other people, like Lisa Fisher's would, she's under Mick would feature her, but she's a sideman. Just like my buddy Bernard Fowler. Bernard is one of the best singers on the planet, man.
Right.
He's Mick's. He's
sideman
parts from the sidelines, So Darlene, so when Steven, I think when he saw her, it just reminded him, hey, I got to make this record with Darlene. She's so great, So he goes in, he records a bunch of the record at his studio in the city. And this is like a year or two after I met Darlene. My friend Rich Mercurio and Lee Nadell, great bass player, Rich drummer, they're playing on it. Now they've been telling Steven's engineer, who's kind of like the middleman to find musicians, that you should really, you should have Mark play on this record.
On Darlene's record.
On Darlene's record, that's right. He totally gets this, gets this music. Anyway, Bobby Bandiera, who's another Jersey Shore, guitar player, Southside Johnny, he was with Bon Jovi for years. Bobby played on a lot of it. Of course, Steven played. Anyway, I got called to play on the last song on the record. And me and Steven know so many of the same people, both growing up at the Jersey Shore.
Sure.
But we never met. I play in the session. It ended up being a 10-hour day and a history lesson. We recorded this Bruce Springsteen song called Night Closing In. Steven recorded that day a wall of sound Phil Spector record for Darlene Love.
Very cool.
Now, first, let alone the rhythm section we spent a couple hours recording the basic track. Everyone left, and I was pretty much left in the studio with Steven recording bolero, 12-string acoustic guitars, the same part, I don't know, 4 or 6 times, like stacking. This is how Phil Spector got that sound. He had 4 or 6 guys playing it. But, it's modern recording, so one guy.
Yeah, one guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Glockenspiel, like tubular bells, everything, 12-string electric guitar, played 3 times the same line to get that sound, So I spent 10 hours in the studio recording all these parts. And we just kind of hit it off, We were talking about people we knew. His first keyboard player with Southside Johnny, Kevin Kavanaugh, who was one of my dearest friends. He passed away a few years ago. Me and Kevin used to play. We would do duo gigs together. So he would telling me about Steven forever, Anyway, about a year later, 6 months later, I get a call from Steven's assistant. Can you come? Steven wants you to come and play guitar for Darlene. We're doing her CD release. And after the day, Steven, I went in and checked out the band. I was like, there was some of her original band. I wasn't really sure a lot of they were the right people on a, you know, they were like oldie circuit musicians, and she really needed a modern young band to play the record that Steven made for her, which was
she needed more energy.
She needed more energy, more rock and roll, you know. These guys were a little weathered, you know. So Steven, you know, consequently had me put a band together for her. But first we did.
So you were effectively like the music director of that.
Steven appointed me her music director. You know, he had me put the band together. He had me, you know, look over his arrangements to make sure everything, that we had all the people we needed to see these songs through to their full, you know, full fruition the way he recorded them. And we spent weeks rehearsing for her. So first we do her CD release. The first show is at the Paramount Theater in Asbury Park. 70 people on stage.
Holy.
Steven doesn't do things small. 3 timpani players. Brass section, 12 brass.
Wow.
12 strings, 30-piece vocal choir. Rock and roll drummer, percussionist. Background singers, Darlene's 3 background singers. It was this huge production. It would look, when the curtains opened, it looked like the Wizard of Oz. You know, it was like.
Yeah, it's like a Broadway, bigger than a Broadway production.
Huge production, right? Then we did her second show at the Whiskey, and we did 2 shows at the Whiskey for a CD release in LA. And then Steven asked me to be her MD. We got some new musicians, and I did her first Christmas tour with her. But that's her big season. She sells out theaters based on her Christmas catalog.
Sure.
You know? I played with her for about 1.5 years. And then Steven called me. I got this guy, Leo Green. His dad's one of the big promoters in England. Leo asked me to play at Bill Wyman's birthday party at the O2 Arena.
Wow, that had to be cool.
Can you put a band together for me? So I called Rich Mercurio, Jack Daly, Andy Burton. Andy's played with John Mayer, Cyndi Lauper. Andy's great. Rufus Wainwright. Andy worked with Rufus. I got the core band. I called Clifford Carter, who was with James Taylor for years on piano. Andy was playing organ and playing synthesizer strings. Got some background singers. Eddie Mannion, who's been Steven's baritone sax guy since Southside Johnny. We put the horn section together, and we rehearsed for 2 weeks, and we went and did the show. It was at the Indigo. It's like a 3,500-seat venue as part of the O2 Arena.
Okay. It's like the Felt Forum to the Garden or something?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
The night after Bill Wyman's birthday, which we all went to, this, it was Robert Plant. It was the guy from Simply Red. All these great acts. You know, Jeff Beck with remember that he was doing the Les Paul Mary Ford stuff with that woman, Imelda. I forget her last name. But anyway, Jeff Beck, Van Morrison, you know.
I saw him at the bottom line.
For the Wyman's birthday. Steven did a couple songs. Then the next night, it's Steven's night, you know. At the Arena was Bad Company, and then we played at the Indigo, which is this great room. Very intimate, even though it's a big room. Like the Lone Star Cafe, the seats, there was like thousands of people. Like, here's the stage, there's people below, and there's people right here. So it was very intimate, and it's in a weird way, you know. We rehearsed all these musicians in New York at Steven's studio. Then when we went to England, because of budgetary constraints, we were only able to bring the rhythm section, Eddie, myself, and Leo Green, God bless him, hired 3 singers for us, 3 British singers, and 5 horns. So me and Eddie went to London about a week, not even a week, maybe 3 or 4 days before the rest of the band came. Not knowing any of these people. We go, and they had the music for a few days. We go and rehearse them before the band comes just to get, the bugs out. These 3 girls knew they memorized like the lyrics, and we're talking about 22 songs we played. They memorized the lyrics in a couple days to most of the songs. Like
that's cool.
Eddie beat the horn section into shape. The band came. We rehearsed for a few days, and we did the show. In the midst of rehearsals, Steven's like, and Steven hadn't performed his own music in decades. You know, he did The Sopranos. He was doing Bruce. He has his radio show. You know, he has, you know, Ground Garage. But he hadn't done his music. When we were doing the shows with Darlene, Steven would do 3 songs a night. And it was fucking great. We would do a song called Forever, Love on the Wrong Side of Town, and Until the Good Is Gone, which were big songs for Steven.
Yeah.
It was, Steven's the real deal, man. It was like pure rock and roll. And a couple times I said, man, you gotta do your thing, man. It's so good. Anyway, a year and a half later, Leo Green calls us to do this show. In the middle of rehearsal, Steven says, this sounds like a record, man. Like we did some new songs. We did some classics like Electric Flag, like an Electric Flag song, Groovin' Is Easy.
Oh, I love that track, man.
Blues Is My Business, you know, the Etta James song.
Mm-hmm.
Some of Steven's songs, some songs that he'd written like in recent years. And he says, when we get back to New York, we're going to go in and make a record. We get back to New York, November 1st. We're in Steven's studio, November 9th, the day after the 2016 election.
Wow.
Without getting into politics.
Yeah.
New York City was like a funeral home.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like someone had died. It was, and the studio, everyone was so, there was this deep concern, you know, not saying why. And we go and we channel all that energy into Soulfire. The first song we recorded was Soulfire. And working with Steven is a history lesson in rock and roll. You know, I mean, you know, he's recorded.
Yeah, he's been around the block, man.
He's been around the block. I mean, he produced those Bruce records, you know, The River, Born in the USA. He was there for all those records. He produced Bob Dylan. You know, Steven's worked with everybody. You know, when he did Sun City, he worked with everyone. He worked with Miles Davis, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's freaking awesome.
You wouldn't believe, when we were on the road, he showed us videos of the sessions when Miles came in to play on Sun City. You know, Miles opens the song. Listen to Sun City. You know, he's playing the beginning licks, you know. So, you know, just working with Steven is like, it's a masterclass every day.
Yeah.
And Steven is one of the most generous people I ever met. You know, he had other meetings and stuff. So me and the engineer were left to kind of oversee the sessions. And I've done this in the past, work with other people that never acknowledge people properly. Steven one day came in and he says, Mark, I'm going to make you and Jeff co-producers on this record. Because, you know, I really appreciate the record.
Like nobody does that, man. Very few people.
Exactly.
That's really, man, that speaks volumes about
who he is, right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, when we're on the road, we've been on the road with Steven for 3.5 years, treats his band, you know, the way he lives with Bruce on the road, you know, he has the band stay in the same hotels as him. After every show, we go to an amazing restaurant. We talk down the show, the whole band.
That's so nice, man.
The crew is invited. You know, I mean, sometimes we'd be on a bus, but 9 times out of 10, he would charter a plane. He would fly us everywhere because that's how he wants to be comfortable and he wants us to be comfortable, you know? Anyway, so he asked me and Jeff to
Man, that's very cool because I've talked to a lot of people that play for big artists, and just because they might financially be able to swing something doesn't mean they do it. You know, exactly. They will typically take off on the plane, and there's nothing wrong with it. Nobody thinks, well, I should be on the plane with them, but they'll take off on, but that's unheard of, man. That's really cool.
Steven's all about the music and all about his people. Loyal as the day is long. I mean, just, you know, the fact that he would call Eddie Mannion to be his horn director, you know, and if you're like Steven he's just about his, you know, he's like he's really a family oriented person, man. He cares about his people, you know.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah, he's never, I have to say, you know, he's one of those extraordinary people that walks his talk. You know, there's no bullshit. You know?
So how do you feel now? Like you have to feel pretty good about where you're at. Like you've been, you've been through this is a nice gig to be absent COVID, of course, but this is a nice, rewarding thing. You get to work hard, play great music.
Yep.
That's got to feel good for you too.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always felt blessed just to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Know? Just to, be able to make music with people that I love and respect. You know, and there's a mutual respect, you know. That's, you know, in the workplace, what else is there?
No, that's really cool, man.
I feel really blessed, man. And, you know, when you go out with Steven, you know, it's like, you know, Paul McCartney comes to the gig and sits in with you, you know. It's like,
yeah, you had some big names. What were some of the coolest experiences you had on
Paul McCartney one was pretty,
yeah,
you know, surreal. You know, it was our first show in the Soulfire tour in England. Like we played Europe and we did a tour of the States, and then we went back to England. And it was really the most important show of the tour. It was at the Roundhouse in England, which is where all the trains would turn around back in the day. And
okay.
They made this amazing venue. I don't know, it's like probably, you know, probably 4,000, 5,000 seats. So Steven says, Paul's going to be at the show. You know, he's probably not going to sit in, but let's be prepared. So we learned a couple songs. Now, the day of the show, you know, we go and do our sound check. And
let me ask you a question about that. When you say, hey, Paul's coming, we're going to learn a few songs. How do you choose the song? Like, you know, you said Paul McCartney for some stupid reason. First thing comes to my mind is Live and Let Die. Love that song. How do you pick, especially a guy like that whose catalog is literally infinite. Yeah. How do you decide?
When you have Stevie Van Zandt, the music historian, at the helm of this, you know, so he thinks it through. So it's like, okay. And I realized this kind of after the fact during we were working on it. So we learned two songs. We learned
oh yeah, Got to Get You Into My Life.
Got to Get You Into My Life, we learned, right? And by the way, was this before? No, I'm sorry. I'm jumping around here.
That was a Beatles song, I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
Yeah,
we learned Got to Get You Into My Life, and I saw her standing for two reasons.
Oh, cool.
Number one, Stephen and Bruce, they were doing it at Hyde Park in London at Bruce's show that Paul sat in on, and they cut the power off because it was curfew. So they didn't get to finish the song, or they didn't get to do the song. So now it's a Little Richard, not a Little Richard song. It's actually a Burt Burns song.
Okay.
No. Wait, I saw her standing there.
I think it's a Lennon McCartney song, man.
It's a Lennon McCartney. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little sidetracked here.
What plans do you guys have, if any, for him to retour once COVID? Is that, I mean, assuming everybody's allowed to tour, is he going to go back out?
Touring right now, I think, is a big question in everyone's mind, period, you know.
Yeah.
But I know that he was going to go out with Bruce this year, you know. I don't know. It really depends. I think maybe the first priority would be to do a tour with Bruce, if that happens, you know. And, you know, then there's always the possibility that we can go out. So right now, it's really hard to say anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think everybody's in that position, like you said.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, except for the president trying to get 20,000 people in a room together.
I had a funny feeling you were going to mention that.
They're not, you know, they're concerned. I mean, there's a great concern for having that many people together.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God. Yeah.
I know they're doing these drive-in shows and stuff.
Yeah, I see a lot of that now. I don't know how that's working out or how people are making money for that. I guess they're charging people. I guess you have one drive-ins all over the country.
They have drive-in. I think drive-ins all over the country. I know Southside Johnny is doing a show at Monmouth Racetrack next month where they're allowing a certain amount of cars, and I think there's going to be like screens or something like, like a drive-in type of concert.
Yeah. I don't know how any of that's going, man. They here in Florida, they both.
You feel free to cut out any political shit.
No, it's cool. No, it wasn't. You didn't get political. You just made a comment. Here they've reopened the bars, actually.
Oh, man. And the numbers are spiking in Florida.
They're really high.
They're really high. I mean, they were talking about that one town where all these migrant workers live, and the migrant workers, of course, had to work through the whole pandemic.
Yeah.
And now they're getting ready to migrate up to Georgia and South Carolina.
Yeah, that's what migrant workers do. Yeah.
And they're concerned that they're carrying the virus
from one place to the next.
Town, I don't know if it's in northern Florida, but same with Tulsa and Arizona. I mean, the numbers, they're getting their highest numbers like exponentially.
Well, what's happening is a lot of the elderly people have gotten sick, but most of that is because those people who are in assisted living facilities.
Right.
The problem is now you got a lot of young kids 25 to 35 that have gone out, that are going out now again. They're coming home to people like my wife and I. Thank God we're healthy and we're in our 50s, but a lot of parents are in their 60s or 70s. So that's what the big scare is for people coming back to parents in their 60s.
My girlfriend's son's coworker, 50 years old, just died of it.
Holy crap.
50 years old, man. Also.
Did he have prior health issues?
Nope. Healthy. Also, the actor friend of Rich Mercurio and Stevie Van Zandt, Nick, I forget Nick's last name. He's been in the hospital for 2.5 months. He was in a coma. He has these clots from it, and he was healthy also, by the way.
Holy.
I think they removed his leg.
Oh, I heard about that, man. Guy on Broadway.
Broadway guy, yeah.
I heard about that. It was so sad, man.
Bro, it's like it's not. It doesn't.
Wow, that's yeah.
So
wow.
We're healthy, but a lot of people that are healthy are getting this, and they're getting very sick or dying. So we got. I mean, until we know what's going on, we got to be as cautious, because I think it's like our behavior affects everyone else on the planet.
Yeah, totally. The other thing is we have the largest population of most countries. So I know they're saying we have the biggest, but when you that's normal when you have outside of India and China, we have like
China has 4 times as many people as this country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, India has like, I don't know, they have like billion.
Yeah, they have
1.3 billion people.
I think India has like 1.8 or something like that, or maybe close to 2. It's pretty huge.
Crazy. Yeah.
All right, let's switch back to music because I'm going to.
Yeah, we're gonna get depressed.
Yeah. Guitar wise, you talked about that Gretsch. What is that your go-to?
No.
In the studio?
Just it's one of the guitars I grab for a sound.
What's your go-to, and what other 2 would round out your top 3?
I have a newer Gretsch that I was using on the tour, the Broadcaster. That one is it's like a modern version. Well, not really of that. It's a bigger. But it's more of a good utility guitar, where this is sort of a one-trick pony for me, the Tennessean,
Yeah.
Like I said, the Telly. I have a Nash Telly that I love. I also have a couple of Fenders. I have a Fernandez, an early '80s Fernandez Telly. That's one of my favorite guitars.
From Japan?
Yeah. Dude,
I'm looking for. I keep my eye out for those because so many guys have told me they love the Japanese Fernandez.
Fernandez, my early '80s Fernandez is I mean, I really love the Nash. Nash is a great telly.
Yeah, he's like in, excuse me, he's in Seattle, or where is he?
He's in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. They relic the guitars, which I could care less about, but it's just a really good guitar.
Yeah, a lot of people love Nash guitars.
Nash is very good. The Fernandez telly I love. I have an ES345, a 67, which I love. It does a thing,
With the is that with the Veritone?
Yeah, it has the Veritone, but it's broken. So
you disabled. Yeah, okay.
Like an ES335, just a reposition.
That's a hollow body though, fully hollow body, isn't it?
No, it has the block through the middle.
Oh, it's semi. What is the difference between the 335 and the 345? Just the Veritone?
Baritone, and yeah, I think the 345 is like the deluxe of a Les Paul, and the custom would be a 355.
Yeah, because the 355 is one up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has the gold, plated shit on it, like a Les Paul custom.
So it's just aesthetics between the 45 and the 55.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And I think the difference between that and the 335 is mostly the Vari switch.
Yeah.
And the 330 is completely hollow, and the 335 with the block through the middle.
Yeah.
I have a 67 335 12 string. That I set it like a schmuck when I was a kid. I got it for like $200, and I turned it into a 6. I was really into Larry Carlton when I was a kid.
Right.
So I made it into a 6 string. And
you changed the nut and everything up there, and
changed the nut and the bridge
and the tuners. You got rid of some tuners, no?
Yeah, man. I got rid of 6 of the tuners. I put on showers. I mean, I Frankenstein the guitar.
Yeah. So what? As long as it sounds good.
I'll grab it out. I don't know where it's somewhere in the house. I'll grab it out one day and show it to you.
Tell me top 3 Desert Island discs in no particular order and just for today.
Band the Gypsies, live at Jimi Hendrix live at the Fillmore.
Yep.
Desert Island discs. Sgt. Pepper, Blonde on Blonde, Bob Dylan.
Band of Gypsy doesn't get mentioned too much as a favorite. Usually it's Are You Experienced or...
I love it. I love all of it, but, for a live album, I know they did 4 shows and they picked the best of the best, but it's some of the most transcendent live guitar.
Yeah, it's great stuff, man.
Live at the Fillmore, Allman Brothers is, that's right in that, top 10, but Band of Gypsies is extraordinary.
Did you get do you ever have they came out with it's probably 15 to 20 years ago now, but like a box set of live at the original recordings, like all the shows. That was great, man. I got that. That was phenomenal.
You could see how, was it the one, you could see how they evolved in the 2 nights to the performance they ended up using where, you could tell everything was still forming. It was still crackling.
Yeah.
All the information. And man, they refined it into fucking masterwork.
Even the Allman Brothers with Warren Haynes, the last like 4 or 5 nights at the Beacon ever, it was same thing. The shows are amazing, man.
I mean, in all due respect to everyone, Dwayne and Dickie, it's another level of consciousness, I think, Derek is a very,
incredible, very unique. I mean,
Warren's extremely talented.
Yeah.
But it never, without Dwayne and Dickie. I mean, I saw them with just Dickie and brothers after Brothers and Sisters, like in the 70s. For me, it's like Eric Clapton, Royal Albert Hall with Cream.
Yeah, that was great.
That's it. I mean, in all due respect, it's when he really started singing, becoming an artist, the guitar playing took a back seat, and I felt like his tone and his.
You're talking about Clapton.
Clapton.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the Cream era.
They wrote the book. I'm like me. I don't know how old Warren is exactly, but I grew up with that shit. Like I was so deep in it. So anyone, the reason I love Derek is because he's so unique. Like he brings like those Indian modes and Middle Eastern. He's a different thing. Where he kind of took Dwayne's thing, his slide playing, and took it further, kind of like Jeff Beck would take himself, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I think Warren's a great musician, but I can't put that, you know, it's like there was a book written between, you know, like 1965 and 1975. The book was written, and then everything else is some kind of, is a parody.
A spin-off of that, a parody. Yeah. I'm a huge Warren Haynes fan. I've probably got, outside of Pink Floyd, Government Mule's like my second biggest catalog.
Yeah. Oh, he's great guitar player.
Yeah, he's I've seen him like 4 or 5 times. I saw the brothers. I saw him with the brothers.
Did Warren do your show?
Not yet, but he's aware of me. I'm aware of him. I have to deal with PR people with him. I don't like doing that, so I haven't really, to be honest with you. He knows who I am for sure. It's just a matter of time. I have to like put on a happy face and deal with PR people. All right. Easy, fun question. Favorite New York City food, man?
Oh, favorite New York City food. I mean, I love this place called Suen. It's a macrobiotic restaurant. Fantastic.
Where is that?
I don't even know if they're around anymore. Suen, S-O-U-E-N.
Okay.
Macrobiotic. You know, but it's like fish and vegetables, but also like, you know, vegetarian type things. It's that's one of my favorite places.
Best decision you ever made?
Oh, best decision. Playing guitar.
Really?
Saved my life, man. Time and time again.
That's awesome.
When I was sick in the hospital, I didn't have the strength to pick the guitar up, but it stood in the corner of the room as something to look forward to.
Your, what do you call it? What's that thing you said to it in the beginning when you saw it at your cousin's house?
Holy Grail.
Yeah, the Holy Grail.
It's a grail, man. It's a grail.
Yeah.
It really is, man. I mean,
tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
My empathy. I would have to say, you know, I'm empathetic towards people, and sometimes I even have to put up a shield because, you know, it's sometimes, you know, if people really get in their stuff, I feel it. But you know, I'm a good listener, so, you know, and that goes with music, you know. So definitely. I guess being a good listener, being empathetic, they kind of go hand in hand.
So what would your girlfriend say she likes most about you?
It might be the good listener part. Yeah, and I'm nurturing, you know, I mean, people I care about, you know, try to take good care of them.
Any non-musical superpowers?
Non-musical superpowers. Good question. Non-musical superpowers. I'm pretty intuitive. Intuition.
That's a great superpower, man.
When it's working, when you don't, I don't let my head get in the way, you know.
It's always working. Yeah, that's it. It's always working. You just got to not outthink it. You have any hobbies outside of music?
I mean, I like, you know, I run. I'm a runner. You know, I like running, cycling. You know, bicycle. I mean, you know, music is, you know, whether it's writing, producing, performing, you know, that's pretty much, you know, it's pretty fulfilling to me. You know, I can cook somewhat, but you know, it's really having the time. You know, I like to cook a little bit. You know, my girlfriend, she's a great cook. Every once in a while, she lets me cook something.
That's #1 hobby for musicians is cooking.
Yeah, I bet. Well,
yeah.
any kind of creative thing, man. I think cooking is very creative. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a release.
Yeah.
For a lot of guys and gals. 2 more questions, man. Toughest decision you had to make or most difficult thing you had to do?
Oh, man. Toughest decision. Man, that's a good question. Man. Can we get back to that?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So I know you said it to me in the notes too, and I think toughest decision.
Answering this question. No, that's your answer.
Yeah. My toughest decision I have ever had to make is whether or not I want to answer this question.
Yeah. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, Mark, and how much of that has been intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Being more accepting and tolerant, and it's a direct result, I think, of my health crisis, and just being when the universe stops you in your tracks and you have to look at things, and it gives you a greater appreciation for what is real and what's valuable, and that is health, family, friends, so yeah, that would be the biggest.
And actually, I have one more. Most important lesson life's taught you.
To be more tolerant and accepting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then before we go, I just have one highlight to share.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney, right? We're at the Roundhouse, Steven said before the show, I just spoke to Paul, doesn't look like he's going to sit in with us. Middle of the show, I find out. So Paul's sitting with his wife, Steven's wife, and Paul's and Steven's assistant. His name was Paul also. Paul Smolskis, great guy. And in the middle of the show, it was a bodacious band. Fury, like it's a fury. It's a freight train, Middle of the show, Paul says to Maureen, Steven's wife, "Do you think I could still sit in with them?" And it's like, when I heard it, it's like, fucking hey, man. Of course.
What does she do? Text? How does she get a hold of him? She can't text him. He's on stage.
Paul McCartney. You could do whatever of course.
Yeah, right. So, of course you can.
What happened was Paul came. Steven's assistant went and told our road manager that Paul wants to sit in for the encore. Anyway, we finish our set. We take our bows, come back. Paul floats out onto the stage. Now, Steven, the historian that he is, we were talking about this earlier, but I think we didn't finish the story about this. Steven figured if we're going to do I Saw Her Standing There.
Right, that's where we left off.
Paul is such a, so influenced by Little Richard, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Just passed away. Steven says he instilled this Little Richard. We did a Little Richard version of I Saw Her Standing There.
Okay.
It was really like Little Richard, the way the horns were hitting it, like a Little Richard big band, Anyway, so Paul comes out. We start doing it. By the way, he does it in E. We arranged it in D. Step down. Start doing the song. First of all, Paul comes on and just goes, he hits this chord. Your whole body knows that the intention that he played that chord with.
Really?
Your whole body goes, I fucking know that sound, Anyway, playing the song, comes to the solo. Steven points to Paul. Paul, lefty, takes a solo. Halfway through, he points to me to finish the solo. I was like, I love you.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, we actually have a video of it. It's probably on my Facebook page.
Is it on your Facebook?
I got to put all this stuff on.
Put on a YouTube channel, dude.
YouTube channel, and I got to update my website, which I'm going to do very soon. But yeah, that was kind of a very surreal highlight. Sir Paul, handing me half the solo.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you hang? Did you get to talk with Paul afterwards, or?
We said hello briefly, but we didn't hang. It was everything was too fast.
Yeah, I got to believe everybody wants that guy's time.
Exactly.
That's got to be really tough to be him.
Yeah, you know, and it was really Stephen's night, you know, and
yeah, it's not about
it's not appropriate, you know.
I totally get that.
I would have loved to have hung, you know, and yeah, I'm sure the rest of the band too, but it was perfect, man. It was like the perfect, you know, it was the perfect, you know, landing and you know.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Tell me now the toughest decision you had to make.
Toughest decision.
Or most difficult thing you had to do.
Years ago, I had to get rid of an entire band that I had that wasn't the right people. It was very difficult. And one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because I loved everyone, but knew that it wasn't right musically, so I had to let go.
That's one of the most common answers to that question. Yeah.
And it's always that. I mean, there's been, I've had to let go of being a musical director, like, you know, being Stephen's musical director. I've had to, you know. Yeah,
you've had to let go of people in the band. Yeah.
And it's very difficult, man. And it's my job, you know. And I don't like rejecting anybody because you know, everyone hates rejection.
Well, if your core value that you relate with is empathy, that's a totally incongruent with empathy. So it's got to be a very difficult thing for you to do.
Great listening, Craig. Yeah, I mean, you're a good listener, brother.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Well, it's easy to listen to intelligent people. So thank you. Hey, listen, I know it's not like you don't want to talk too much about it, but talk about the new record you got coming out. And you'll come back on the show here once it's out. And
you were gracious enough to mention the possibility of
come back on.
We'll do you know, even if it's a short.
We'll come back and we'll turn people onto the record, but tell people about it.
Well, when I first became Stephen's musical director in 2016, we recorded Soulfire. We recorded that album, and then we finished that in December. We went in November. We finished late December. Stephen, and then I went out with Darlene. I had like some Christmas shows with Darlene. And then Stephen had 2 months left of Bruce's tour of Australia. He went with Bruce to Australia. And I had like a little window of time. I've been wanting to record which would be my third album. I have 2 albums prior. And I went in with essentially the guys that I hired for Stephen, Jack Daly on bass, Rich Mercurio on drums, Andy Burton on keyboards, also a guy named Rob Chorus, another great keyboardist. A couple of days, Andy was out with John Mayer. He couldn't make it, so we got Rob. And we recorded, in 3 days, we recorded 15 songs. I was figuring to have 10 or 12 on the record. And I came close to finishing it, and then Stephen whisked us away. We were touring. If we weren't on the road, we were making the next record or preparing for the next tour. So for 3 years, it just sat in the cans. When the pandemic happened, I said, I got to finish this record. So I've been feverishly working on the mixes. And I have some exciting announcements about it, which I'll tell you about as soon as the ink dries.
Can you share the title? I love it. It's such a nice title. If you can't, that's cool.
Of course I can. The album's going to be called The Whole World Awaits You.
The Whole World Awaits You. I thought that was a really nice title. I really like, man, that's something like, you know, someone says that to you, hey man, the whole world awaits you. It feels like, you know, you're a little kid and like, you know, you got a whole bunch of, you know, the whole world awaits you, you know?
There's things to look forward to.
Yeah. It's very cool.
I think we need that positivity now. You know, it's the title track. I mean, there's a song I wrote called The Whole World Awaits You. Yeah, man, there's a lot of good going on in the world. There's a lot of darkness, man, as I think as creative people, like, we got to bring as much light as we can. So hopefully, you know, it can be, I can shine my little light as far as it'll go.
Well, The Whole World Awaits You, and I await that record. So I'll be looking forward to it, man. let me just tell people where to find you. First of all, thank you, man. I really appreciate you're very generous with your time. And thanks for sharing. You're a long way from Trojan, man. Thank God. I'm happy for you there, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Marc Ribler, check him out online. It's Marc with a C, M-A-R-C, Ribler, RIBLER.com. If you want to work with Marc in any of these capacities, either tracks, have him work on some tracks with you or for you. And also, if you want to either hire him or talk to him about songwriting, the best way to do that is is there a contact tab on your website?
You know what, man? People could just, they can email directly at marcribler@mac.com.
Great. marcribler@mac.com. Please be judicious and respectful with his time, and just like be thorough in explaining what it is you're looking for, and, you know, why do you think he could help you, so he can come back with some sort of logical or way to answer you appropriately. Also, you can connect with him on Facebook. Same, Marc Ribler, M-A-R-C-R-I-B-L-E-R, and you can message him there. Anything else you want me to talk about? Anything else you'd like me to promote?
I mean, this has been great, Craig. You know, like I said, you're a great listener, which is
thank you, man.
A gift to anybody that a person can listen. You know?
Thanks. That's really kind of you.
I mean, it's been fantastic. Thank you, brother. And on a side note, just talking about the sessions and recording, I have, like, you know, I have an amp room with a boutique. You know, I have Matchless, I have Vox, I have Supro, I have Blackface Fenders, I have a lot of guitars, I have a really great DAW, great mic tree. So if you need guitar tracks or productions, I do all this stuff from the house.
Right on.
I've been doing this for 30-something years, and it would be an honor to play on people's records. And,
Dude, you know what you sounded like there for a second? Remember those guys, like when we were kids, that go down to Canal Street? Come in, we have Vox, we have Matchless, you know, like those electronic store, like
where we saw it, man. Yeah.
Remember?
Pickles.
Yeah, you go buy like the TDK cassette tapes for like 1/10 of the price or something. They're probably bootlegs, who the hell knows? But it was so funny. Yeah.
Crazy Eddie, right? Or
yeah. Insane, going insane. Yeah. Anyway, man, on that note, hang on, let me wrap this up. Thank you for everything, man. I really appreciate it. I look forward to the record coming out, The Whole World Awaits You. Beautiful title. Congratulations on everything. I'm so happy you're healthy now, man. That's a fucking greatest thing on earth. So good that that's happening. I hope you have many, many more healthy years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Check out Marc Ribler online. He's a great songwriter. He's done a lot of cool things. Go to marcribler.com. It's M-A-R-C Ribler, R-I-B-L-E-R. Or you could hit him up on Facebook, saying Marc Ribler. Sessions. He's got a fucking amp room the size of Godzilla, and you know, let him play something for you there. Most important, man, especially nowadays, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Brother, thank you so much for everything.
Peace, brother. Thank you, Craig. You're a gentleman.